This is looking good.
Vallun debate god. Clap. Yes, I should have renamed you actually. Yeah. Why does it say Vallun? It needs to say debate god.
Debate God.
Yeah, that's what that's what it actually needs to say. Hello, is this a big debate? This is in fact a massive debate, guys. A huge debate.
Huge
The biggest debate out of anything else. Okay.
This is where it's at today.
Yeah.
You can't, this is whatever
We're not
happens
just talking
here.
about games here. We're talking about life.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
The casual or
Stuff that actually matters.
the elitist approach to life in general. Yeah. It's the biggest of all issues is of course elitism versus being a casual gamer. And you know what? I think let's just get straight into it. Like, we're not just going to talk about this, guys, today. Of course, there are some other things to talk about. There's plenty of stuff going on in the game. We've got pumpkins, guys. There's pumpkins to carve in the game. There's beetles to race all over the place. But you know what? Let's talk to the title of the tea time. And there was, for a little bit of backstory for everyone listening, there was a bit of controversy regarding a certain beetle race in the game and a corresponding achievement for the meta event. Now, and Vallun, of course, there was a huge uproar over the nerfing of this achievement. There was an achievement for beating this race course in under a minute. Quite a challenging achievement. Not straightforward, to be fair, actually. And it got nerfed pretty hard, and now you don't even need the beetle to do it anymore, which is... It's kind of triggered the this whole kind of recent reignition of the Casual Wars 2 debate, and I think Vallun even wrote a Reddit post which got hard downvoted about this. So I think we should just get into this. Like, Vallun, what do you think? I know you think this is a bad example, so why is this a bad example for a start then?
Well, it's a bad example of a bad implementation of casualism in achievements, but it's a good example of how the community reacts to those kind of situations, right? So if you should just link my Reddit post and
you can link the post. That's fine.
So initially, for when the achievement was still at 1 minute, what was the initial reaction from the community regarding this? Was this something that people viewed as it was doable, or something they thought was too hard straight off the bat?
I think it was considered pretty damn hard. I think an insanely low amount of the population beat it, right? Was it something like 0.2% of people beat it or something? It was very low.
Not even. It was 0.1 or less the time they changed the achievement.
It was very low.
I was actually kind of wrong though at first, because I didn't know how like the circumstances of the situation were, because like apparently you needed to like do like this meta achievement to get like 50 AP, and that's a completely other issue, right? Like, why do you need that 50 AP if you don't want to do the work to get it? But it was like you didn't have to do the achievement, but you kind of had to do that or the clock tower. So it was, I mean, there's really no argument to not doing clock tower when it's been out like this many years. 6 years,
yeah.
But like if the clock tower didn't exist, I could see why like you would want the achievement to be easier on the beetle race, because it is limited, and it does require you some time investment. And if you're trying to get the whole meta done, you have to do all the other achievements still. It's not like you can just invest all your time into that if you're a casual and you have like maybe 2 hours a day.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, there's the issue of, well, just don't get the achievement then, forehead. Like, I used to be a casual myself, and at one point there was Living World 1, right? Season 1. There was like 2 weeks of content, and there was a lot of content every 2 weeks, and it came out with achievements that you could never get again. And I would always do these, but like at one point I think I was going to miss them or something, or I knew that I wasn't able to get every achievement, so it kind of gave me like this feeling of like despair, like, oh, I'm not going to get it. So why even try, right? Why even try? So
I get that. I was offline.
There's a different
one of them
aspect to it. It's like, entitledness, and then there's like complete apathy, right? So a lot of people aren't taking the approach of entitledness. There's the vocal minority, but there's also like this feeling of, if achievements are you can't get them at any time, then what's like the point in having them? Because they don't mean anything if someone can't just come in and get them later if they don't play the game.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think a large part of the problem, from certainly to do with the original set of season 1 achievements, is it's not directly linked to the achievement point system itself, but it's with how the development team were developing their living content at the time, that they wanted to try these one-off events. And I'm sure we're gonna have a bit of a chat about the difference in the number of achievement points we get now compared to the number that we got back then. But having that cadence where they thought, right, this is the direction that we want to go in, where this content, this temporary content, is going to tell the story. After the first Living World season, they realized that was a terrible idea, but they'd locked themselves into that. And so I think it was more like the whole achievement point, the whole kind of, all that volume of achievement points being locked off and unavailable now. I think it's more of a symptom of how the living world was being developed at the time, rather than an actual intention to lock away those achievement points for nobody else to get.
Right.
And
that's also another point I brought up, which is the difference between achievements and content, because the content is locked off and no one really kind of cared that it was locked off. They just cared that they couldn't get the achievements.
Yeah, so it's more about getting the points rather than actually experiencing the content.
Yeah.
A serious issue.
Yeah.
Well, when it comes to when it comes to the Halloween one, I think when it comes to achievement points in general, I think it's desirable even that not all the achievements are really easy, right? And some of them are effectively get locked off to some people as a result of skill, right? No.
Totally disagree with that.
Oh yeah, no.
Disagree.
Yeah, no. This is hit me with it, did I want to hear it.
Festivals, in the tradition of festivals, the clock tower is the bar. The bar. That is the difficulty of Halloween. And I think this time around, the Raceway was badly perceived only because you had to do one of the two. Raceway was hard, clock tower still hard for some people, and they just don't want to do it. So that bar was being tested again, and this time the community backlashed because festivals just give you crap. They give you rewards, they give you achievement points, and the only problem, had they not put it in that annual achievement of 50 just free achievement points, because that's technically what it is. Even the 25 achievement points attached to the Raceway, you don't even have to do it under a minute. You just had to get 25 achievement points, and it's one of the fastest achievement points you can probably get in the game. So it's a free 75 achievement points. Give the kids what they want. Give the casuals what they want. Give me what I want. And then you guys, and I wish they didn't put that Raceway in the festival. I wish they put it.
What do you mean by
somewhere out interior? Well, when the festivals over the years have easily just given out achievement points, and so this time around, when they started locking this new achievement point that's gonna this 50 achievement points that's gonna be repeatable every year, it's almost like dangling something in front of them saying you have to be better when it's just a 3-week festival. If they did it in an episode, we wouldn't even heard anything about it. Everybody be like, this Raceway is ridiculous, maybe by 6 people. But since they put it in a festival, it's this pressure people make up in their mind, of course,
that you've got to do it in this time frame.
Got to do it, yeah. And so
it's
therefore,
not like you have to do it this season. You have to do it next Halloween as well.
Yeah, you've got to wait an entire year to do it again.
Yeah, and if you don't get it this year, you don't get the 50 achievement points somebody
totally
got last year.
That. That's why
you start to fall behind.
That's why I say that this isn't like a good example of an achievement that shouldn't be changed, but it's just like the reaction of the community. Right. I would be fine with that achievement being changed. To be honest, it was just the reaction.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that the community's reaction to a potentially difficult achievement is one of the few things in the game that can't actually be bought from another player. It's something that they actually have to rely on to do themselves. That they're the ones that have got to take their beat around in a minute. You can't, like, I'm sure we talked about this before. You can't just buy your way to the Mad Drifter title in the LFG. You actually have to do it yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that was it. Again, I think that was a. I think the fact that you couldn't buy it was like a secondary kind of afterthought of what would happen in terms of challenging achievements and that kind of thing. But it comes down to the age-old thing. It depends if that people don't want to put the effort in, and they expect that reward to come back to them. Like you say, it's 50 achievement points, which is a fair chunk in one go. And you're right, you can do the clock tower. Those of us who've been playing a while, you can do the clock tower in, maybe half a dozen goes if you got 10 thumbs like I have, or you can do it first time if you're actually any good at the game. But the first year that took me 7 hours to do, and this year it took me 7 minutes to do.
Yeah.
So it's like anything. It's like anything. If you want to get better at something, it's just practice and practice and practice. And even though it's a video game where you've got artificial pixels, no offense, ain't it, Ben? Where in the grand scheme of things, like, it doesn't really matter. But if you're deciding that it matters and you want it, and you want the 50 achievement points and you want the title, you have to work for it. And like that's kind of the bottom line. And
I think we could even like take it away from the 50 achievement points though. Sorry to cut you off there, but I just isolate it from the 50 AP, right? I do think that absolutely the meta achievement for the festival should in essence be free, right? That is I would completely agree with Zorric there. It should absolutely be free. That should be content that literally every single player in the entire game should be able to do. I would even say like make it so you don't have to do the clock tower, right? Although to be fair, I'd be very hesitant to say this because I obviously I don't know, I'd like to consider myself relatively competent, but I would consider the Mad Drifter achievement to be essentially free at this point. You can just like run around in circles with a raptor and just
this is the thing as well. You don't even need the beetle to do it. It's easier on literally any other mount. Maybe
the difficulty isn't the issue.
But you guys, I don't think you guys have seen it the way I've seen it though. So I went to my EU account and I don't have the beetle. You have to rent one. And what I found is if you get knocked off your beetle, you're done. That's it. You don't have the beetle anymore. So if you didn't do that content, you were sort of locked out of that content unless you got really good re-renting, and retrying that beetle. Luckily, it doesn't cost money, so it's not really that huge of an issue. It could have been. But playing on my EU account, if I failed, it was the raptor. It was my only choice was to get on that raptor and go. And a lot of times as veterans, we sort of forget that there are other players that probably outcried here that don't have the expansions to get to that beetle. And that's why I call the beetle optional, because it's sort of wrapped up in a living story. And you don't have to get it to complete the expansion. And so if you did rent the beetle to try to get this achievement, if you did fail, it was very time consuming. And then if the race happened, it was even more time consuming because you can't just restart the race either once you start going. You have to run back. I completely
understand this though. Like your point is pretty valid that the achievement was inaccessible, but let's get to the heart of the issue is even if the achievement is impossible to get and you can't get the reward, what does the reward mean to you that it requires action, right? So more specifically, what does achievement points really mean to you?
They mean nothing now, aren't they? Aren't they just filler, participation trophy, and a guide at this point?
I don't know. Are they?
Well, that's what they are, because you can't go back to season 1 and get those achievements. You can't go back to previous festivals. So if you're in the top 2,000, like I'm sure some of us are here, Vallun,
you're saying
top 10.
Top 2,000 though. So you're saying it's some sort of competition? Is that
well, that's why the leaderboards are there, are they not? Isn't that the point of achievement point?
It's a competition if you choose to view it that way. I think a lot of people view.
Maybe back then they could have been.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like
when they added them,
a lot of people would view it as a way to track their own progression through the achievements in the game. There are things to aim for solely within the chest. There's there's the back pieces, there's the armor, there's the free gems, which you literally get gems for playing the game. if you're, I mean, I know it's
Yeah,
every
but if
5,000
you
points
think
or
about the
whatever,
actual relative value of the gems you get per like time investment into AP, it's very
It's not great.
low value.
It's not great.
it's not
Like
fantastic.
you could literally go out on the street and like beg for money and get like you could transfer that money to like gems.
You could buy gems
way quicker. Like,
yeah.
And I know that's like a bad example, but like it's really
no,
worth it, the gems that you get from AP. So like, what is the actual value of AP?
Well,
If it's
that's
not
the problem.
like competition, I mean, competition. I can agree if you say it's competition, but then you're also saying they mean nothing. So it's kind of like saying, well, you're first place, but first place means nothing. So
it's purely subjective though. It's like you like the individual has to put value on an achievement point. If you desperately want the 50 AP, or if you desperately want the Mad Drifter title, then that holds particular value to you. But
what do you mean desperately want though? Like why would you desperately want?
I don't know.
It's a completionist thing, right?
But that's just it.
Yeah, it's
leaderboard.
It's almost like a gut. It's almost like
there's your reason. If you're a completionist, then complete it. Don't beg for it or something.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's the reason.
I think we need to slightly unpack this a little bit. The issue here is that the festival content should be accessible to everyone. Not necessarily all AP should be accessible to everyone, right? I think that would be a good way to describe the situation here. For example, like, would it be a problem if there was another achievement, like the extra Mad Drifter, right, for doing it under 50 seconds, right, and that gave, say, 10 AP? Do you think people would have a problem with that if it was completely unrelated to the meta? That was kind of what I was trying to get at previously. Is it acceptable to have an achievement that's more difficult? That would be an issue.
Because you have to think of relative value. Like, people are getting 50 AP for this other one, so they care a lot about it. So they care about the amount of AP. Like, if you have like this achievement, I don't know, I'm having trouble thinking of one, but just think like if the CMs gave like 1 AP or something, or maybe like Migraine Mode gave like 1 AP. No one would care that they were that hard, because they wouldn't really want maybe like a title. It's a bad example because there's titles and other stuff.
Well, what about like Liadri or Turiosa in the Gambit just gone? What was that? You got a title, a mini, and was it 25 AP for it?
Yeah, fair amount of AP.
See, that's something that's worth it because you get a title and you get a mini.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
it's so weird how ArenaNet does the achievement points that it's hard to argue one way or the other. It's the same thing as when you make a legendary weapon. You only get 5 achievement points for that.
Oh.
It's like, really?
You get a legendary weapon. That's worth it.
You get the legendary though. That's
if you do the legendary armor, it's so much more AP, is it not? Like, what's
it's also a lot more expensive.
Well, so what is your value on AP then? If you're saying it's more AP, so what's the difference?
That's what I'm saying. It's so subjective. If someone thinks making a legendary is better experience and should be worth more AP than beating Liadri and a harder achievement, like, the value is that's just it. The entire argument is, what is it worth? And if ArenaNet is constantly just giving random values to achievement points, it's really hard to argue one way or the other that casuals should just get this, or you should really have to work for this achievement points. But I think if you do have more challenge to it, like the Mad Drifter, it should be worth more, but it was only 5 achievement points still. So I'm still confused about why ArenaNet didn't make it worth more, 10, 15 AP.
I don't know. It seems like the AP for the legendaries is just a somewhat arbitrary amount that they slapped in when they did the UI rework, and they popped in
also,
and like you're gonna get the legendary weapon for the skin, aren't you? No one sits there and just go, you know what, I need an extra 5 AP. Let's craft me Sunrise. It's
I actually did that.
5 AP.
I bought Eternity to get that achievement done.
Isn't there the Twice Told Legend as well? I did.
Yeah, there's Twice Told Legend.
Twice Told Legend is worth more, but
that's like 25 AP. Like
that's worth the same as making 5, but making 2 the same is 25 and a title.
It was because the reason they did that was because before the wardrobe came in, and before we had the wardrobe, before the wardrobe system was in, that if you wanted to dual wield Incinerator or Bolt or whatever, you had to make the same legendary weapon twice.
God. Yeah. Hey, well, when it comes to stuff like this, I in a way, like, a lot of the AP is arbitrary, right? And as I understand it, actually, like, top secret leaks here, guys. As I understand it, there's like a certain amount of AP assigned to each release, right? And that's the amount they can put in, right? So, for example, something that's really weird. If you look at the raid achievements, for example, some of them have loads of AP, and some of them have almost no AP. So it's and it's not really related to difficulty either. Actually, it's just like, well, here you go, have some AP. There you go. And it's almost random. So in terms of the actual amount of AP, I think it's not exactly related to difficulty as such. I mean, obviously, right? Like you get I think you get 10 AP for doing it's either 10 or 25 AP for doing Doom CM. But you get 50 for like running around and carving up some pumpkins, right? So it's really not. It's not. And that's not a criticism. I don't mind that. That's fine. I don't really think it's necessary to have. Like, you've got to have it exactly proportional, otherwise that's unacceptable. That would be, you know, a ridiculous standard to hold it to. But I think as long as there's some achievement points that are kind of to a certain extent gated, I think that's kind of a healthy system. I don't think it's good to have like every single achievement be completely free, and it is certainly true, as Zorric was saying, and this is something that I would definitely agree that at this point achievement points are basically just almost like a giant quest log, right? They are look at all this stuff you can do in the game, right? This is, you know, go do that, go do this. Sorry, say again, Vallun?
They're content guides, like they tell you what there is to do in the game.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But the thing is, where there might be some diverging opinions, is that I think it's almost essential that some of them are more challenging. I think it would actually certainly push engagement with certain areas of the game, particularly a lot of the open world stuff, if there were some actually difficult achievements that required a bit of effort to obtain in the open world. I mean, there certainly are. You have like the Griffin races and stuff that you have to actually get good to do the Griffin races, but I think that could be applied to all areas of the game. Stuff like, I don't know, like, I would love to see it if there were achievements for like, can you beat all 3 of the bosses in the labyrinth within a certain time span or something like that, or can you beat this open world boss in this amount of time, right? Like, can you do this? Can you do that? I think that would be really cool to have that sort of thing kind of spread out throughout the world, and that would actually require some proper group coordination. Because if anything, I feel like the open world events of Guild Wars 2 end up so underappreciated and undervalued because of how face roll they are, you know? Stuff like Chat Gerant is such a cool fight, but it's completely brain dead, right? Like, even stuff like Octovine and Dragon Stand, like it's such a shame that all this stuff is so face roll, right? Because it's such good content. Look at the effort that went into making Dragon Stand and stuff like that. And Serpent's Ire as well. Like, that's a big meme right there, boys.
Well, Serpent's Ire is a great little meta, actually. I think it's cool if you get enough people to do it. I mean, but that's the issue with it. I think with Serpent's Ire, they tried to inject a little bit of life back into it by chucking that back piece component in there, but I don't think that worked particularly well. But what I think, something that ArenaNet kind of got on with in terms of looking at how they should have done open world chain events and whether or not they should have attributed achievement points to them, is if you look at Verdant Brink during the day cycles, when you have the 4 different courses that you have to take. So, like, if you do the Noble one, for example, and you follow Farron all the way from the crash site all the way to the final bit where you fight the Wyvern or whatever it is, that kind of pushes you to go through the open world content. It pushes you to complete all of those individual quest steps and experience the story. And then when you get to the end, you get a bunch of achievement points, and then that contributes towards your overall kind of meta mastery achievement as well. So I think that they're certainly kind of learning with it. It's just kind of a shame that they took a step back from that system in Path of Fight in exchange for kind of more random collection-y type stuff and slightly more isolated bits and pieces that didn't really connect. Because that way it's just encouraging you to follow Dolphy, isn't it? rather than actually experience the map as they designed it.
In a way, it's kind of a double-edged sword. I think Path of Fire, it was designed that way to be a bit of more of a hop-in, hop-out kind of system, whereas Heart of Thorns is very much like you want to experience the entire thing, right? And that again, this is it's a really difficult conversation to have, because it was a complaint that a lot of players had with Heart of Thorns, was that they felt you had to kind of commit, right, to a full train, right? You're very much on rails, right? And you just go through the map, and they felt kind of locked into it, rather. Especially, obviously, the most notable example of this will be Dragon's Den, right? You're on the map.
If you're there, you're there for an hour and a half.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, you have to do it. This was, of course, especially true at the start of the expansion, where things were actually difficult, right? But I just maybe this is just me, but the start of the expansion was when those maps felt the best, right? Because there was like the chance of failure in a way, right? And I realized that that's something that it has been completely moved away from. I think it's pretty difficult. It's actually hard to fail a lot of this stuff now. Even, for example, even if you try and troll Octovine really hard, if you take your 10 players and you just try and constantly burn it, you probably won't fail. It's very hard to actually fail one of the meta events at this point. And in a way, that kind of sucks the joy out of it for me, right? It's kind of... It's just you might as well AFK, and that feels pretty bad. I mean, in a lot of cases, I do just AFK. I will just tag the Octovine and AFK because I know they don't really need me, right? But when you have an event like even Tequaddle and Triple Trouble are a bit like this, but if you have these events where you feel like you actually have to contribute, it's exciting, man. And when you have those achievements for beating that, it feels more rewarding when you get rewarded for taking down these giant worms and stuff like that. And just from my perspective, I think that's what I kind of miss to be honest, in video games in general, actually, but certainly in Guild Wars too. I think it will be really good for the entire player base, for everyone, for every type of gamer, to have some slightly more difficult achievement content through achievements, right? Through that system, to kind of push the limits of the game a little bit.
I agree, but not with open world content, because of the nature of how like content that gets older is going to be less popular, so it's going to be harder for you to get that achievement. So open world should always be like very accessible. But as far as
it does get easier though, doesn't it?
Are good.
I think what we're also missing here is ANET's taking this one and done direction. It's like when the newest map in the episode came out, there was a lot to do, a lot of achievements, and you actually had to work on things yourself to sort of get it done. And then they give us this personal instance, and this personal instance can be finished easily through a Dolphy guide or something like that. And it does give you achievement points and stuff. But I thought the personal instance myself, when they talked about it, was almost like a hyped up, like, we're going to do something with this instance for the story and for the personal player character, and it never happened. Instead, it became this one and done type of thing where you finish the achievements and there's really no reason to stick around. So, but it's been that way for some time now. We don't get big marionette battles where achievements are attached to it anymore, because players come in, they finish what they want to do, and then they're gone. And then, like, even the newest Shatterer, like, if you get 10 people together and walk through there, you can finish that as long as people know what they're doing. And that's sort of boring to me. So achievements sort of take a back seat there, and I just don't care as much to go after those, especially if they're like, oh, beat the Shatterer 7 times. It's like, really? The last 3 times I did it, it wasn't that entertaining. The rewards aren't that good, that kind of stuff. But that's the content ANET's been creating. It's really hard to be like, oh man, open world this, open world that, when they really haven't done anything with the open world for the whole game. It's specific to that living story. It's specific to that expansion. And so we cut out anyone who doesn't have it. Versus when it was Tequaddle or the Marionette, everyone can show up and try to participate and learn how to do this thing. It just doesn't happen anymore.
I mean, interesting, just with certainly with the rework to Tequaddle, and this kind of takes us back to almost back to where we started. There was Tequaddle had its own set of achievements in Boss Week. And with it, that got a ton of you got a ton of achievement points, you got your title, you got the Sunless Wings, which you can now buy in the Season 1 reward, dude. But I don't know, Tequatl back when it came out, it was really challenging. Really, really challenging. And even though people face roll it now, the problem is I can see what you're saying about how with the kind of the one and done kind of situation with the content as well. But since Tequatl came out in 2013, 5 years ago, people like the community, the player base as a whole have got a lot better at the game. And
you want to know why? They got better at that because people encourage people to get better at that. They started teaching them, this is how you beat it. This is how you fight it. People were using Zerker's gear, facing it, and dying. And people are like, you can't crit Tequatl. You have to go to Soldier's gear. And then as soon as one person beat it, it's like the entire event opened up to the game. And that doesn't happen. Even in the raid community, where that should be your job, is to teach people how to get into this accessible area and then expand on it and blow it up into something big. It just doesn't happen anymore. Yeah. So Tequatl, once we got that down and got it accessible to almost the entire game, that's why it stays so busy. But it just, and that's why people are able to get their achievements and not sit there and fall back. You can be a casual and walk into Tequatl battle and get achievements and stuff now, but you do have to work at some of them, and that feels okay, actually, even to me.
Do you think that Tequatl requires some like learning curve to it, or like you're saying that
it wasn't just a learning curve? It was the community teaching that learning curve,
and like not with the power creep of classes.
Power creep has certainly helped, but
and the nerf as well. They nerfed it as well. They nerfed Tequatl. You can crit it now and stuff like that. So that really opened up the DPS check, I suppose. But in general, strategies are just very much well known. But it's power creep is also pretty extreme. Now, even if you play on like a random map with just players that you find, really you'll probably still have every boon, just because there'll be a few Besmas pressing some buttons, right? And it will work out. Like power creep is a very real thing. Certainly compared to the base classes, right? But go ahead, Alex. Continue.
Oh, I forgot what I was going to say.
Oh my god!
No, I'm so sorry.
No, it's all right. It was probably something along the lines of how, like power creep community knowledge has made stuff like Tequatl easier, and even in the space of 2 weeks where we had the ArenaNet, that people got that down pretty fast. You know, inside the first 6 or 8 hours, you had maps and servers completing it already. So it is the community knowing what they're doing. It's the player base knowing what's going on. And like certainly, if the ArenaNet came back now without any alterations, like the power creep the power creep that we've experienced since what 5 years ago, it would just make it, the content would just be completely uninspiring.
So are we saying the ArenaNet is a good, like, it's good content?
I enjoyed it when it came out, man. I thought it was a great.
That's one of the only achievements I don't have.
I think I was missing 2 myself.
I could not carry my team because there was 5 instances. If I won my lane, another lane would fail.
Someone else would
That's
fail,
actual.
ArenaNet, I thought was good.
Not only can I not carry the whole team because I'm not carry the other 4 either.
Yeah.
That's like the difference between like casual content and like hardcore content. Is like,
but
I literally can do nothing.
But like Triple Trouble is able to be done by more casuals today than it was at the beginning, where they wanted very specific builds and groups. And then they learned, mechanics, right? And I think that's a lot of the problem with especially toxic casuals, as I call them, people who don't want to put in that extra effort to learn the mechanics. But at the same time, there's a group of casuals out there that make, I think, a good chunk of the game. And this is why things get nerfed and changed, is that they do work at it. but it's enough work that ArenaNet said, well, they're trying, so let's back it up a little bit to see how many more can get through that barrier. And then when they do, you'll see a lot of them suddenly like, oh yeah, this is a lot easier. And it's really not. I mean, 5% change isn't that big of a change, but for some, it's like just that mental barrier they finally get through. And so when you get to Elitist, you're like, this is easy. Why would you nerf it? And that kind of stuff.
It's sort of like how the meta changes, even though like a build has been strong for a long time in PvP, it takes like a buff to it for people to realize that it's good. But in reality, it's been good the whole time. People just didn't know how to play it.
Absolutely, it's kind of like that. Having something there to rediscover it, right? That you just try again, and then suddenly everything is perfectly clear. But to kind of talk about to press that issue a little bit when it comes to the community and the way the game operates, I think one of the issues with Guild Wars 2, and okay, right, got to hear me out, boys. Here, okay. One of the issues with Guild Wars 2, and perhaps more modern games in general, is that the game is too convenient, almost, right? There is. The reason you don't have that like super tight community to beat the Triple Trouble, to beat to quarrel, is because it's just not necessary. It's the game is easy to the point where it doesn't force you to interact and group up with other players in a way. If you don't want to know anything about the game, you can still play the game very effectively, right? You can basically run whatever build you want. You don't need to be good at anything really, and you can basically beat the entire game. There's no reason to actually interact with other players and work as a team and improve yourself and like actually play well or play well with other players. It's not necessary anymore. And I actually think that's a real shame, because you don't... It almost like sucks the joy out of it. It makes it very sterile, right? Like the game is very sterile. Is what it certainly feels like, and that's what kind of it's why it's, well, I realize I'm obviously in the minority, but there's just I struggle to get dank memes out of like the open world stuff, because it is just completely, there's really no challenge to it at all. And don't get me wrong, I actually think there of course should be some stuff that is completely accessible so everyone can do that as a baseline, but the fact that there really is nothing above that, and no real reason to group up with all the players on the map, and you have to work together to any level of to any standard is a bit of a shame to me. And I you know what, I think a way to incentivize that would actually be achievement points in titles. If it was the case that to do X map you'd actually have to coordinate well, like, as a baseline you could beat the map, right? Very casually, just you'll get some rewards for doing it. But to get like the highest tier of rewards and say achievement points, a title, you had to actually properly coordinate the map and execute it well. I actually think you would see that return, right? I think some people would complain about it. Absolutely, some people would complain. It's like, oh, what's this? This was supposed to be our game, man. Like, this is the casual game. But I don't know. I think it will be good to have something that would effectively force you. It would force you to have to group up in an MMO. Really, that's so bad, is it? Like to actually coordinate.
I think it's sort of. I see what you're saying. I think if it was done when the game was released, it would have been a better idea. But at the moment, there are at least, to my mind, there are at least two problems with that. First of all, is that there's always that whinging from the community when we get a new map, and you go, oh, we'll have another map with another meta kind of thing in it, which is for me, I kind of tend to ignore it, because that's how the living world works. You work up to getting to fighting a boss, to doing some collections, blah 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 blah. The other thing is that if they were going to do that with old maps, it'd be kind of interesting to see what the community, what the population's reaction would be to going back to those older maps at the same time that they're pushing forward with more living story content. Because if it was a way to kind of reinvigorate old content, it could be interesting. I just don't know how many people would pick up on it.
Well, didn't they do that with the Shatter in Central Tyria? You couldn't. You can get all the achievements from the meta, but if you want all the achievements, you had to coordinate enough to make sure to shatter that bar.
There's that
every
break
time.
bug. Oh, I've still not got that.
Yeah, it's a hard achievement.
Yeah, but this is what I mean. Though, in my opinion, they Windows 10. No, they used to do this. When I see people complaining about stuff like this, they don't. I feel like they don't remember how the game used to be. It actually
even Turquaddle was really faithful at first.
Yeah, it was like this. It did used to require some
the original
coordination.
Squall.
Yeah, I mean, original
Squall.
Yeah, original Squall was completely faithful, right? Like he was easy mode. Then they brought him back, and he was a big boy. Okay, Triple Trouble was a big boy. The game already was like this. There were these pieces of challenging content, even in the open world context and in the living world, right? This actually happened before. So it's not like there's never been anything hard in Guild Wars 2 in the living world in that context. I mean, again, like the Queen's Gauntlet is a great example of this. This is, that's a pretty spicy event. Like Liadri, is not completely free, right? And certainly Turiosa on top of that is not completely free. And yeah, especially if you put on all the gambits, dude. Like that's when it gets fun. Okay, but.
No achievement though. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, like, I can't believe it, man. No achievement.
I'm not doing it.
If there was a secret achievement for that, I would have been so happy, man. That would have been such a.
You got a title though for him, didn't you?
You get a title, for all
gambits. But not
for
gambits.
Yeah, but not for all of them. Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been kind of fun.
But that's where ANET is short, right? We like, if you really want to challenge yourself in this game, there's all sorts of stuff you can do to challenge yourself. But then there's things that are like, ANET, why didn't you add in this achievement? You don't have to show the population. It just has to be there. And it doesn't even have to give anything. You can just be like, look, I got the achievement for doing this.
I think the reason they didn't make an achievement for it is because no one at ANET could get it themselves, probably, when they were testing. Mm-hmm. That's probably one of the harder achievements in the game. If they
that's a bit weird. I mean, I'd expect someone. I mean, it's happened in games before where they've put unbeatable content in and it's later had to be patched. So I assume someone somewhere.
It was a festival, remember? So
at ArenaNet would have been able to have done it before they put it in the game. Like
you
there
would
was.
Think that.
I was watching. I saw a video from Blizzard just before Diablo 3 came out, and a couple of the devs were on, and they said that no one had beaten Diablo on what was then the top difficulty. This was before all the Torment and Rift stuff. So on Inferno or Nightmare or whatever the original difficulty level was, that when they released Diablo 3, no one at Blizzard had actually beaten it, and eventually like the community did it like the day it came out because, well, you know what Blizzard fanboys are like, but.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Oh yeah. Inflames Excel says the very first version of Yak Slapper. What was that? Was that 25?
It
25,000 yaks.
No, it was even more than that. It was like 250,000 yaks, dude. It was a whole nother level of yak slaying. I mean, that was.
It was 8 years of playing.
Yeah. The amount of the original World vs. World achievements were absolutely hilarious, dude. But chat has been talking about this, but to kind of go off on a tangent here, but like, why were people upset that the achievements for getting that God of PvP, legendary demigod, right, stuff like that? Why were people upset about that? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Did they come with achievement points?
Well, yeah, it did. Originally, they had achievement points, but the community was kind of upset, and they removed it. Like, why were people upset with that? That's an achievement. It makes no sense to me.
If you get God of PvP, you deserve a few achievement points. Let's be honest.
No, because the achievement points don't matter. That's why I'm for the change. It was the fact that the title is what you're earning. That's what you should care about. If you start adding achievement points just willy-nilly to anything, then yeah, you're going to get that backlash from the casuals. But if they never added achievement points, nobody would have cared. Nobody.
Yeah, but people do care about achievement points. Clearly, you can't say that they mean nothing.
That's a guy in the top 10, but.
They wouldn't complain if they didn't care.
I'm not saying they aren't worth anything. I'm just asking you what your opinion on what they mean is, because you say they don't mean anything, but I think you.
Well, I used to think they meant something. They used to mean something.
Spoiler alert, they do mean something.
But what I have found after I think in 2016, I hit 30,000 achievement points and finished my Hellfire armor except for the back piece, right? And I had gotten this done and I was like, oh yeah, 30,000 achievement points. But then I realized, this was a lot of work and I didn't really get that many rewards for it. And what I found achievement points are good for is account bonuses, but they really just show what you've done in the game and how devoted you have been to the game in the last 6 years.
But you really get through titles and rewards that come linked with the achievement points.
That true, but I mean, when only, what's the latest one? 35,000. When only about 1,200 people have that title, not many are showing off that title compared to something like, God of PvP or something like that. So achievements, like, it was important at the time to get to 30,000 because I wanted this reward. But now that I've gotten there and realized how much work it takes just to get a little bit more, it just doesn't have that much value to me versus, the elites, the people who are at the top that have the 38,000 AP. And it just, and when we talk about that, we're talking like a very small group, 2,000 or less people have, if you look at the leaderboards, you're talking 33.5 and above. That's only 2,000 people. And 80% of them have more than 3,000. Like, to get in the top 80%, you just have to have 3,000. So achievement points, like back in the day, they were so important to be like, look how devoted I am to the game. And now it's just like, man, look how much work I have to put into the game. And so it sort of killed it for me.
I mean, what was your original reasoning for kind of going all in on the achievement points? Did you want the number of AP? Did you want the title? Did you want the armor? Did you want the gems or the account bonuses?
It was the devotion to the game that I wanted to show off through the achievement points. That no longer holds the same feeling, I guess.
Okay. Well, I think it does. If you do all the achievements, you experience all the content. Well, not all of it, but if you haven't done every achievement, then you haven't experienced all the content. Plus all the other content that isn't achievement based.
I think that's what I started to realize is people can't catch me. I started to realize I could take a year off the game and still be in the top 2,000. Even where I'm at now, people just can't catch me anymore. And I think that's what took the challenge out of it. If they continue to give achievement points faster than I could earn them, then it would have changed things because people can go back and earn that stuff. It's not like Xbox games where like they have those big rewards and people talk about the points they earn there. But the point is you can go back and play a lot of that stuff and get those points. Now you can't. So if you got those extra 3,000, 4,000 achievement points the first couple years or so, or 3 years, no one's going to catch you. No one. So that value just sort of died for me.
You're saying once again, like, catch you as in like it's a competition.
Well, yeah. Isn't that the point of bigger numbers?
If it's a competition, why would you be averse to having some AP locked behind being good at the game? I don't actually understand this objection to. I think the God of PvP example is like the ultimate example. Why would it be bad for God of PvP to give 50 AP?
I wouldn't have anything in.
Say like 1,000 AP for getting God of PvP.
If you got God of PvP for 1,000 AP, what you're saying is, what ANET would be saying is that PvP is more valuable than any other achievement in PvP.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, what you get with the God of PvP title is that you're one of the top 2 people in the game at PvP. Like, that's what you get with that title. Like, obviously it's one of 2 because NA has it as well,
but you can buy it. Like, it doesn't matter. You could buy those titles then. People did it already. They got them removed. They put them back. The entire thing's been a mess. And those achievement points, when the first big bad thing that happened in the win trading and that kind of stuff, and I can't remember who did it. So what was the EG thing? That was all for achievement points. I guarantee
it was. Yeah, it
and
was.
titles.
Yeah.
And that's it.
It was from minis
and and no matter how many AP points were attached to those titles, people would have paid to get there. They would have gave their account away to get those achievement points so they could be the best.
I know, but they you wouldn't do it for the A. When you're saying if it was 1,000 AP, you'd do it for the AP.
Oh, easy for 1,000 AP. People
I can see that
more
than
$400.
I mean, people would do.
Well, just because they would. I feel like that's isn't that a completely bizarre argument? Like, just because people will like cheat means that you shouldn't do it. I mean, like, what about all the people who don't cheat?
Well, that's why I also hate Adventure.
This is a big problem with how Arena actually deals with the game, in my opinion. Arena will kind of happily punish every legitimate player for the sake of a few naughty ones. Seriously, they really don't mind doing that. Look at honestly the way they handled the PvP stuff and the raid CMs one is a great example of this. They won't go and remove all the CMs. They'll just say no, like too bad. You're going to get memed now, stuff like that. It's not. I don't think it's good. I think that it should be. There should be achievements that are hard in the game that give you AP, because AP is an indication of skill. And to be honest, God of PvP. I mean, if you look at it as it is, it's probably the hardest achievement to get. Like, the best of the best is probably the hardest, and then God of PvP. Maybe God of PvP isn't. God of PvP is probably the best. Best of the best is winning the monthly AT.
Right. Okay.
That's probably the hardest achievement to get in the game, honestly.
Which also has been cheated.
But not anymore. Not anymore, though.
It only takes 1 hour time to get that. Wouldn't Ultimate Dominator be harder because it takes you literally like 5 years?
I mean, Ultimate Dominator is more AIDS, but the thing is, it is essentially an extremely easy achievement because it's just a time gate. It requires no level of
time gate or skill gate.
Skill gate, definitely, because given enough time, anyone can get Ultimate Dominator. Given enough time, not everyone can get Best of the Best.
What if Ultimate Dominator takes you an amount of time that is literally impossible? Is it harder?
Well, I mean, no. It's still a very easy achievement. It's just a grind.
It's literally impossible, but it's still easier.
It's not. No, that's literally impossible for it to be. If you get 1 kill a day, it will just take you 250,000 days. I mean, but the thing is, in 250,000 days, I think that there are some players who would never be able to beat to win the monthly AT. Like, literally, it will be literally impossible for them. Whereas Ultimate Dominator would only be nearly impossible.
I want to touch on one of those. Why is buying raids more acceptable than buying PvP? For what he just said.
Oh,
because everyone can buy raids. You just have to save up the money. It doesn't mean that you can't buy PvP.
Because there's exclusivity with PvP.
No, there's actually I can actually deal with this. This is actually pretty easy to deal with. So, well, I mean, we know I went for rank 55 this time, but suppose, look, so, no, back at, so suppose that we had, like, the dominant team, we had the 4 gods of PvP, right? If they do a 4v5, okay, and they carry 1 guy and win the monthly AT, that is fine, okay? That is A-okay. Seriously, would anyone here have an objection to that? I actually don't think... Because
you're essentially playing with a man down, aren't you?
Yeah, you're essentially 4v5. Hey, shit's legit, dude. It is what it is. But, however, if you play on their account, that is obviously cheating, right? Because that is not that player actually earning the achievement. In theory, if you... Because this happens all the time, right? It is very easy to win a PvP game while being, like, totally useless, okay? I mean, it can happen. Like, maybe a team just carries you. These things happen, right? That is completely legit. In theory, you still contributed and done your best, right? But when it comes to actually... winning, playing on someone else's account, that's no longer legitimate because you're playing on someone. It's not you doing it, right? You aren't doing it. And when it comes to like the raid comparison, like to kind of further distance it, like in raids, I mean, what is the difference between raid selling and just losing a player very early, right? And just continuing 9-man. There is no difference from that. It's the same thing as the 4v5 thing in PvP. There's no real fundamental difference between those two situations. And selling raids, I mean, hey, if people will pay for it, it is what it is. And there's no other players. Like the NPC is not going to be sad at coming second place, right? Okay, but someone who's playing in the monthly AT is going to be pretty sad at coming second place, right?
Especially if someone's been playing silly buggers.
Especially if someone's being naughty as well, right? So that's the argument for PvP PvP selling. But yeah, honestly, if there were 4 players good enough to sell monthly AT, fair play, you know. I mean, if you can 4v5 the second best team, yeah, fair enough, right? I mean that's legit, man.
But the thing is, with raids now, you're at a point where you can, like, especially the early wings, and I'd guess probably wing 4 and wing 6 as well, that you can almost low man them to a point.
Oh yeah, you can beat Veil Guardian with like 3 guys.
Yeah, so that's
well, maybe not anymore.
Maybe not 3, but you could probably take what 4 people with a competent selling team.
Oh, well, I don't think that's probably not that efficient because you're probably going to die a lot. But yeah, I mean, even I would say even just good guilds can definitely low man very easily.
That's what I think is the actual like skill though, is finding that efficiency. Like while 6-man can be like more skillful than an 8-man, you kind of have to like find value for your time, right? So like if you 8-man, you can get
step away 1 second.
Okay.
Like if you 8-man, you can get more clears done in less time than like more than twice the amount of, you know, if you 6-man, right? So you'll get more money, and I think that's like kind of like capitalism memes there, but you know, I think that's sort of like another aspect of achievement points that is kind of like elite, is like the finding value in time or like economy, you know?
Yeah. So
like for example, like if there's this one achievement, I gave this example before, SMC captures. If you have to capture SMC and defend SMC, you know, you're kind of like doing the same thing, but if you work on SMC captures first, you'll actually get SMC defenses as well. So if you focus on SMC captures, you will get more value for your time rather than if you work on SMC defenses first, because the way
how many captures is it for the achievement? Is it 1,000?
I don't know. It's like
200.
I don't know
it's
the exact number, but it's the same amount for each, right? But one is easier than the other. So if you work on the harder one, you'll get the easier one along with it, right? And how I went about doing this achievement was I actually duo boxed a mesmer on the opposite.
Oh my god! And you ported the enemy team.
I portaled the enemy team into SMC so they could capture it more. Legit win trading world v world exposed.
You're win trading with yourself,
dude. Vallun is exposed. Vallun actually got exposed, guys. That is you're actually exposed.
That's like the kind of like you know, efficiency that actually makes achievements like fun for me. It's like planning out what the best method for doing it is.
Yeah.
Because you have limited amount of time and there's so many achievements to do. So a lot of the skill in doing achievements is getting them done as quickly as possible.
That's actually big brain. That's actually big brain, dude. Okay.
Speaking, while we're on World v World at the moment, why don't people or the reaction to this whole achievement point lockout thing? We had 2 World v World seasons packed with 500 AP apiece.
It was a fair amount. A fair amount, yeah.
That is a shed load of AP.
I'm also missing a lot of the World v World.
Oh, me too, man. Me too.
Yeah, I mean, I want to. We should definitely talk about locked AP, but I'd kind of like to continue on the pseudo locked AP for a little while. Like, Zorric, do you think that raids, in particular CMs, should give achievement points, or do you think that, you know, it should be you get the title, congratulations, you've beaten the CMs? Because in a way, for a large amount of the player base, it's a very small amount of people who've actually beaten these these achievements, right? It is a low percentage, right? It's not that many at all. So is that a problem? Should achievement points actually just be that kind of content guide, or can they be challenging?
So I don't do raids. I don't play them, and most of that is due to time, and the community sort of pushed me out, and I just never found a way back in. But challenge modes in the raids, and in fact, I love watching, especially streamers, do these raids. Challenge modes should give you AP because I don't think they're impossible. I think if you do have a good group, that you can bring that extra guy in. You can bring a couple extra guys in. It's like those people who were 7-manning Doom CM or something like that. I don't know if they're ever successful, but it was fun watching it. And I think that content is great. I think raids are fantastic content. But at the same time, I don't think it's accessible in the sense of community versus the actual game mechanics. So in PvP, the reason I don't want them in because I think the game mechanics don't play well to everyone versus raids. I think they do. I think if you spent enough time and find a good enough synergetic group that you could get those achievement points. But I don't know. It's hard to say. I think raids' biggest problem is the community, not so much what's in there. The achievement points, the rewards. I mean, sometimes even the rewards aren't enough in raids. It's not attracting players the right way. I don't know. It's that spectrum from all the way to the toxic casuals to the toxic elitists. What is the problem? In this case, I feel like it is the community with raids, not the AP. I think everyone can get that AP.
But isn't that you putting more value on the AP that you get from raids rather than you get from PvP? Because you can say that I feel this AP is justified because you have to put a certain type of effort in. But if it's not justified in a completely different game mode where people are having to put effort in, but a different kind of effort because it's a different game mode and the rewards are different, then if both styles of play still result in the reward of AP, then surely both are justified in giving them out.
I think I'm jaded. I think that's the real story here. I'm jaded because I feel like PvP has turned into something that it shouldn't have been. And the potential of PvP is huge, but I don't know. You guys got to think, I started in World versus. I always felt those achievements were way out of reach, and they were. And now they're not, but I'm still not invested in World versus World because the game mode has changed. So the AP to me, I just care. And then
hang on.
I don't know. I don't know how to answer your question because I think there's so many parts moving. And the more we talk about this achievement points, the more I'm starting to realize that ArenaNet has they really have memed us.
They memed us. They've memed us all.
I think ArenaNet does not have a team devoted to achievement points, but the departments themselves come up with the achievements, so they're not synergetic to what's going on in the game. I don't know. I'm totally. I don't know what that was, but it is messed up.
Sorry, that was my cat.
And it's certainly true that PvP requires a different. It's a very different skill set, right? To say beating the raid CMs, but there's nonetheless a mechanical skill gate to doing the raid CMs. If you don't have relatively competent mechanics, you're going to struggle with doing the raid CMs. I think especially something like Doom CM. If you don't have some level of situational awareness, you're just going to get farmed constantly. And this obviously the same is true in PvP. So I don't really see why having achievement point rewards for different skill sets is a bad thing. In fact, I would say it would be desirable, if anything, right? So in a way, if you beat all the achievements, right, you'd be considered a very well-rounded player, right? So you do all the World versus World achievements, so you have that skill, so you know about positioning and stuff like that. And honestly, right now this is like a big meme, and this should probably not happen because everyone would just stack servers. But I think it would be great if especially during the seasons, if they had stuff like if you have a certain KD, right, kill death ratio on your server, and hey, you get an achievement for that. Like, you get a little shiny meme. I think stuff like that would be great, like to actually make it a bit competitive, make it a bit spicy. Whereas PvE, you could have, I'm on a 1.5 KD server, and I'm top 100 in PvP, and I've beaten all the raid CMs. Oh yeah, I'm a beast. I think that there's some proper achievements right there. And I think not having that is almost bad. Like, why I think it would be good to have some stuff to actually work towards. Because right now, what work towards means in the game is essentially grinding. Achievement points in a way are just a measure of time, and I think that to me is not what an achievement means. Maybe I am just a really old man, but I think there should be some actual effort and skill required getting at least some of them, rather than just like a big checklist of chores you do in the open world, because I think that is actually what achievement points have kind of slid towards. Well, not only achievement points, but in general what the game tells you to do in a way. I think that almost the entire game is essentially just like a big collect fest, right? And I mean, hey, if that's what the game is supposed to be, then
people
that's
still
fine,
value achievement points. Like, I join a random fractal group, and people like maybe like a fourth of the time are like, "Wow, are you on the leaderboard?" And I just I don't respond to that anymore. And then I look at their AP just to kind of like get an idea of like what kind of audience actually values AP, and it's a lot of people. Like, there are people who are close to my AP that will say that, and then there's people with low AP. So I don't think it's a misinformation thing. I think it's just something that's globally, it has some global value to it, and it's kind of hard to put your finger on what it is.
I'd argue whether or not it has proper value to the whole player base. I'd argue that it is more recognized as it's more recognized that someone's done the work rather than someone attributing like actual in-game value to it. I know that seems one and the same, but for me, it's very clear and definitive in my mind that there are people who will admire and respect somebody for having the 38,000 achievement points. But then when you look at the community, at the player base as a whole, and I'm not talking about people who stream, people who raid, people who lurk in chat, whatever. I'm talking you guys who play 3 hours a week, I'm talking you guys who've got toddlers, full-time job, that kind of thing. The guys who play 3 hours a week, that they're on their 4,000 or 5,000 achievement points, and they're rocking along, absolutely fine with it. But then when they see someone with the 38,000 achievement points, they look at them and go, "Christ, that guy's put a lot of effort into the game." And then you have a respect for, well, as much as you can have respect for imaginary numbers online. No offense, Vallun. Sorry, that was I didn't mean that. I didn't mean it like that. But I think that I've got to dig myself out of a very
digging a hole.
I think that my point was, I think that the much wider and broader player base don't put as much value into achievement points as the top 5 or 10% do. And
you mean top and bottom 5%?
Yeah, let's go with that.
Because, like I said, there's like people who don't have many AP points that will look at mine and say, "Hey, that's a lot. Are you on the leaderboard?"
Yeah, but
like, and that's like a thing as well. Like, does the leaderboard even mean anything? Do they know that it's like this ancient prehistoric like thing that hasn't been supported in like 4 years?
Yeah. But I don't think that someone's going to see your AP count and that's going to inspire them to start running up the leaderboard, though.
Well, and hopefully
whether or not they want to do it themselves, they still value it.
Yeah, it still seems.
I mean, I think the value's there. I think my biggest example of this is quite the opposite direction. Back when Fractals, they started asking for you to have like 12,000 achievement points, and things like that. I remember getting kicked from a group because I had too many achievement points. They called me a tryhard and kicked me
You
from the
had
group.
too many achievement points.
I had 24,000. I know, right? And so these guys.
Wait, why would you be kicked for being tryhard? Isn't that good?
That's
elitism, dude. It's counter elitism. Okay, counter
elitism.
It's the two sides of the coin. You got the people who are like, "Oh yeah, I'm the best, man," and you got the people who are like, "Why are you trying to be the best? Like, why do you have to be the best?" And then that's the toxic casuals versus the toxic elitists, and they're on two sides, and it's like squishing the community in because as more people join,
like, dramatic.
It is. I'm telling you, the community is being a piece of poop lately.
Well, there are. Yeah, I mean, everyone does always talk about toxic elitists, but you do have to talk about the toxic casuals as well, I suppose, right? I mean, that is real.
What is a toxic casual?
A toxic casual is an. Oh god, there was a guy who Deroya got into a debate on Twitter, and this guy was kind of saying, "Oh, why you gotta race, dude? Why you gotta inflate your ego? What's going on, bro? What's going on, bro? What's that ego? Why you got those ego issues, bro?" It's just like, are you kidding me? Like he wants to have a hard achievement with the Beetle, which he himself like really loves, right? And I think if you go on Reddit, they're always talking about ego, right? They're just it's just like this what? Like, what is this? Like, what is this projection meme? Like, how insecure are you? Like, that is a toxic casual. Like, what? Why are raids in the game, man? Why are raids? Like, why do you have to be good at the game, dude? Like, why can't we just enjoy our like pretty picture, our watercolor game? Like, why can't we just like auto attack a giant dragon? What's going on there? Yeah, that's a toxic casual. They are the,
I gotta see TeaTim's face, right?
The toxic casual is someone who looks at the elitist and says, you can't enjoy the game the way you enjoy the game, right? And the elitist is the same. The toxic elitist looks at the casual and says, no, you cannot enjoy the game as you enjoy the game. Why do you do that, right? And the casual is the same. And there are plenty of them, believe me, especially in Guild Wars 2. There are people who look at raiders or high-end PvPers, or anything high-end World versus Worlders, and say, you should not enjoy the game that way because I don't enjoy the game that way. That is the essence of elitism, right? But it's just the other way around. Like, in a way, the casuals are elitist too, but they're just in the opposite direction. It's the same mechanism, but just at opposite ends of the spectrum. And I think both of them are extremely damaging to the game, right? Like, obviously. But I would actually make the argument that in a way, the toxic casuals are actually more damaging because toxic elitists typically like huddle themselves away and say, no, don't come anywhere near us, right? Whereas the toxic casuals will actually in my opinion, cause a lot of problems for the game and have kind of, in a way, contributed to the direction of the game moving to almost like when I play Guild Wars 2, like sometimes you could actually think that you're playing a single player game in open world, right? And it's just like there are loads of AIs that help you kill everything. Like that is not how it should be, in my opinion.
That's not, no.
It almost feels like that sometimes.
I feel like the toxic casuals are doing something else to the game that the casuals aren't. And the casuals say, this is too hard. I think when the Raceway came out, we had people that were in a bit of a more active group of casuals, people who actually do try for those achievements, people who actually aren't really elitists. They don't care for raids. They may do them once in a while. But those were the guys with the comments on the forums that were like, I did it, but I do think it's too hard. Versus the toxic casuals are the ones that destroyed World versus World. They're the ones that are like, the siege is too tough. It doesn't make sense to just have to hold things. We shouldn't have to defend. You should just be killing players. Blah, blah, blah. Because they found it easy to be in a blob and contribute to DPS and get free back. And that's what they wanted, was free back. And what World versus World hardcore players wanted was challenge. Break through my arrow cards, break through the siege, get into my defense, beat me at the game at its core mechanic. But then ArenaNet slid over and said, oh, well, I guess the arrow cards do a little bit too much damage. And I agree, maybe they did, but at the same time, there were ways to defeat it with other siege. There was counterplay, and slowly I saw this leave the game. And it happens everywhere. Now it's happening to raid. You see all these people complaining like it's not accessible. It's not accessible. And the community's doubled down saying, oh yeah, you can join. You just have to find it. But then I see training groups asking for LI. And it's just like, yeah, now the toxic casuals are now pushing the toxic elitists to be even more toxic because they don't want to lose the direction of the game where it's actually good, challenging content. So we got this group of casuals just sort of stuck there that also get blamed for it. But I don't think that good chunk of the game there's the problem. It is marketed as a casual game. I think it is those that have gone to the extreme that I should only have to press 1. And that's just saddening to me. Like, then why play video?
Well, there's a difference between being casual and it being easy. All right. So
yeah, it's true.
The casual is where you drop in, you do a couple of dungeons, maybe some low-level fractals, but you still learn how to play the game. There's going to be things.
Investment.
Yeah. There's going to be things depending on your skill ceiling that you are going to find easy, and the stuff that you're going to find hard. And people either have to figure out where their skill ceiling is, or they get better at the game. Now, complaining that I've completely lost my point. That's really embarrassing.
Toxic casuals.
Yeah. Sorry, it was rather the skill ceiling rather than the. No, it's gone.
Oh,
can someone tell me what I was talking about?
I think you were talking about maybe you were going to reference that people should almost like recognize that you must reach a certain skill level to obtain some of these rewards and experience some of this content correctly. I think that's kind of where you're going with it, right?
Absolutely, yeah. You can't expect to come into the game and essentially have it be played or it be played for you, right? You know, there's got to be at least a little bit. Oh, thank you, Cottage. I was contrasting casual and easy. Thank you. Jesus, what? That's embarrassing. But yeah, casual, you could put some time in, right? I mean, we all sort of casually play, I don't know, something like Skyrim, right? Over the course of 6 years, we've all racked up many, many hundreds of hours. And if we have one master file, I'm sure we've all got like the master destruction stuff. We've all done most of the Daedric quests and all that kind of thing. So we put the time in. Like, some of that stuff isn't like super hard, but it's not terribly easy, right? But you invest. You invest and you understand the game mechanics. Ajax, you need to play more Skyrim. But if you'd have gone in to doing a lot of the hidden hard stuff in Skyrim, and you just swung your sword around and not understand how the various spells, how the various status effects work, you know, that's where you're going to find it hard because you don't understand how the game works, and that is what people would start complaining
also
about.
The difference between single player and multiplayer, because if you don't know what you're missing out on, then you can't really feel entitled to do it.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
And all of this stuff kind of comes down to it's okay not to have things. Okay, I don't have every achievement in the game, and I think that's fine. And also, the casual versus easy is a really big distinction, because in my opinion, you can absolutely do, say, for example, raids casually. That can be done casually. I don't think you have to be. Trust me, guys. Okay, I play with Salt, my guild, an extremely casual guild, in my opinion, an extremely casual guild. People don't really when I raid with people, I have helped extremely casual, in my opinion, unskilled players get the hardest PvE content in the game. Like that is absolutely true. There are people who are not good, in my opinion, who can easily do every challenge mode in the game just because you just learn it and you play an easy role and you vaguely do a DPS rotation and then job done. Raids can be done casually. Change my mind, boys. Okay, I really think they can be. And even if it's
no, I totally agree, because there's a lot of groups out there that do raids that you don't see, and they don't do CMs. They just raid and they get better, but they don't complain that they can't complete the content. They just do it with their friends, and they do as much as. I think that's a large majority of the audience. It's just the toxic casuals have a vocal minority.
I think that the problem. We hear all these things like the toxic groups, but we never hear anything from like the actual players, the ones doing the stuff casually or trying harder to get something. And I think that's also where we fell in our knowledge, is that ANET has the information. Like when people talk about mount licenses and how horrible they were, I never agreed with that. I thought they were an okay thing to add into the game. And then ANET proved it by coming out with more sets, by saying, no, people bought these up and they'll buy them up again, and they did. So they came out with a third set, mostly because of the Beetle, but that's just good marketing on ANET. But we don't get to see how many people are attempting raids every week. We don't get to see who has all the achievements. Guild Wars 2 efficiency can only do so much. How many active players are actually there playing this content and this content? We can say, PvP's dead. It only has like 3,000 players actively or something like that, but we don't know. It could be 9,000. We just can't see the numbers, or more. It could be 90,000. And we just, for some reason, getting stuck in the same matches. The matchmaking's working, so we only see the same people so many times. And when it comes to raids, I do wonder how many people out there are attempting raids, just haven't achieved everybody, and don't say anything on the forums, or don't go on there and be like, you need to change this, because they're okay. They're just like, no, this is the way the game is, and this is the way it should be played. So I don't know.
Well, I think the reason why we see complaints about this, and I suppose the entire reason for this tea time in a way, is because it almost appears like the direction is actually catering to the people who want it easy, right? Or not. I wouldn't say ArenaNet are catering to the toxic casuals, but increasingly we see. I think we do actually see most of the content in the game being completely free. Stuff like removing the AP from God of PvP, like nerfing the achievement on Mad Drifter, and say not like creating a new one. Bad example, but you know what I mean, right? Like stuff like that. Like it does seem that the game is actually catered towards the player who wants to be able to achieve everything with minimal effort, right? This is something that I think I saw you tweet about this, Zorric, right? It's you were talking about how not everything has to be challenging, right? Or something like that. Like, you have to like expose me if I'm misquoting here, but it. I'm sorry, I don't know, dude. Like, almost everything is completely free. I would say 99.5% of all achievements in the game require no effort. That's already the case. I mean, it's not like there's this surge of just impossible achievements that are unobtainable for the casuals. It's in fact completely the opposite. Like, there's almost no achievements that have any level of prestige in the game. And hey, I'm not saying that, the game is trash because of this. No, like, the game is excellent. The game is an incredibly good game, but it certainly appears that the game is moving in that direction, and has been for a while.
But what if 99.5% of the players want that, and ANET knows it? In fact, I'm mad that the race festival. I hate the raceway. It's dumb. It's a piece of trash. I hate it. Partnership over. I know.
Oh my god.
I think that raceway should have been in open Central Tyria somewhere as a hardcore, nice change of pace to the adventures. And it tells you immediately, this is going to be hard. You're going to have to beat this race in under 50 seconds. You're going to have to be fast, and the reward is 25 achievement points. I guarantee more people would have showed up to that than it had at the festival, where it should have been just throw away AP, appease the masses, 99.5%. I would love to see challenges in the game, but they need to be in a place that are permanent and actually cause conversation, not negative pushback. I want ANET to introduce in the game saying this is optional, but we are going to put AP to it, and just keep doing that consistently and have it accessible by people. Now, it doesn't always have to be in Central Tyria, but I'm actually surprised there isn't more races in Central Tyria, even casual ones for that matter. I hate the adventures, but at the same time, I love options. I love do take the effort. Like, what is it, Boots? He has #1 in episode 3.
The Griffin now, dude.
Mm-hmm.
And the running around in circles, the run around for no reason.
I think one thing we're forgetting here is that you don't need to complete content to experience it, right? So
Yes.
like Doom CM, how many people have it, right?
It's 1,500 or something. It's not actually a lot. It's not a lot of people who have it.
Is that what 1,500
how
people
many
have
people
it?
have tried for Doom CM? You know, how many people
That's
have
what we don't
experienced that
know.
content? Is that like waste of content if only so many people are achieving it? I don't think so.
ArenaNet will have the stats for it. ArenaNet will have the
Right, but whatever the stat is, I'm going to guarantee you that a lot more people have tried it than who actually have it.
Oh, absolutely,
And my argument is, well, it's good content, even if people can't complete it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's completely completable, so it's not like it's impossible. So that's not an issue either.
Yeah.
I
think I have no real disagreement with that. And you know what? Some people will be really mad that they can't beat Doom CM, and some people will fail Doom CM for ages and then go, you know what? We still had fun. And obviously, I think saying that is such a big meme, honestly. Because let's be honest, guys. If you try Doom CM for like 10 hours and you don't get it, you're gonna be really fucking sad. Okay, and that's
just the 10 hours.
Yeah,
just the 10 hours.
And that's real, boys. Okay, that's real. If you can't get it, you're gonna be mad. But in a way, I feel like that should almost motivate people. I hate to come off as sounding like a bit of an elitist, but it is kind of a get good moment. Like that if you say you keep wiping it 50% because like you can't handle the shackle mechanic, right? Or you're not good enough at stacking or something like that, or the healing outputs there, the boon output, like any output. That should be like a moment. Like, okay, guys, like we've got to push ourselves to overcome this epic challenge, right? It's Doom. He's a giant guy with a massive scythe, man. Like, come on, like, you got to go for it. You can't be slacking, man. You can't
be auto attacking on
it's appropriate. The challenge is appropriate to the scale of the encounter. The law of Doom, the fight, right? If you don't kill Doom, right, he will eat every person's soul in all of Tyria. Okay, right? Like, is this the kind of boss that you should just auto attack to death? No, I mean that's just not that's not how it should be. I think it's an appropriate challenge, and I genuinely believe that, especially with the way the game is in terms of the accessibility of various classes, that literally anyone could beat Doom CM. And that may be a bold statement, guys, but here I am, twitch.tv live, and this will be on YouTube too. Literally every player in the game could get Doom CM if they actually wanted to. Okay, hop on that Condi Soul Beast and fucking stand behind him and auto attack, baby. Let's go. Okay, you can do it. You don't have to be good.
Don't let Raka hear that.
You don't.
You haven't been
don't
watching
have
how
to
I
be
play,
good.
have you? Because.
Yeah. But it's good enough. I think, and I actually want to go back all the way to ages ago, half an hour, to talk to a point that Zorric made here. And he's absolutely right. Like the knowledge is a huge problem in the community. Okay, what do I see when I go in raids? I see people on Doom CM trying to do it for the first time on fucking Thief. It makes me cringe. It's just like. People think that Thief is really easy and completely free in raids, but like nothing can be further from the truth. I actually think that to correctly play Thief is not for a newer player in raids. Even though the rotation is very simple, it's you have 11k HP, like you can't wriggle around and die. It's just like just get on that Soul Beast and auto attack on shortbow. Like that's what you're gonna do. The raiding community does need to assist players in beating this content. I really think that. I think a lot of people will approach raids in a very poor direction because they don't have guidance. I think they look at purely the numbers and they don't actually realize the nuance behind the numbers and how you actually get to those and what they mean. And as a result of that, people go, wow, this is hard, man. This is too difficult. This is hard. And I think people get the wrong impression. I think every single raid boss can essentially be cheesed and beaten by clever composition and strategy, right? Like there are hard strategies to do, and there are very easy but slower and safer strategies to execute in raids. And any boss can be beaten by any group of players, pretty much, given the knowledge. Like the only difference between even a very casual group and like a really good group that can farm raids is essentially knowledge. Okay, it's barely even rotational skill. Like assuming that assuming that you don't screw up, there's not a lot of difference between killing a boss in 4 minutes and killing a boss in 8 minutes, right? Like, it's definitely, you're going to make it harder for yourself if you have bad DPS, but it's not going to be the end of the world because there are no DPS checks in the entire game. Zorric is completely correct here. There is not enough work done by the community to actually spread these facts, because the only resources out there, like I'm not calling anyone out here, by the way. This is not some like big expose, but all the resources out there are typically aimed at the already skilled player. There are not that many resources actually aimed at the completely new player. Okay, it is as simple as that, right? It is as simple as that.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, man, I mean, if you're absolutely right that a bunch of role players in Divinity's Reach decided they wanted to try raiding, and now they do it every week. You know, it's like C-Maj do it, and you know they've done all their videos and whatnot. But they all started out as a bunch of role players with as far as I understand it, with a relatively low skill ceiling.
Look at the Reddit post with the music guild.
Yeah.
Pretty popular too.
Yeah, I think they're great, but you know they started from that, you know, relatively low skill level, and you know they worked their way up. Any group and I think TeaPot's right. As long as you actually know what you're doing, any group composition could pretty much do it. And I'm not hardcore. I don't profess to know everything about raids, but when you watch enough people do it, when you watch enough people raid, and you understand how the mechanics work, then I think that's a completely valid statement. But I think what the new players have to do, and what the already active raid community has to do more to dissuade people from, is people going onto the Snowcrow's website, slapping on the meta build, sort of half-assing the rotation, and then expecting to clear it in one shot, because that's what they're seeing on the streams, that's what they're seeing on the videos. And I think the raiding community has to take some kind of responsibility for that. Yeah. You know, you see it in every kind of every time we get a new raid wing come out, you see the progression streams, which are great fun to watch. You can see people. I watched yours, Teapot, when Wing 6 dropped. But 2 weeks later, everybody's forgotten that. Hell, even later that week, everyone had forgotten and just gone, all right, you do X, Y, Z. This is what we do. Oh my God, why didn't you know this already? And
yes, and Wing 6 is an amazing example of this. I think this was intentional. I think ArenaNet is actually 1 billion IQ massive brain. Okay, all of the bosses in Wing 6, especially the first and third boss, are raw execution focused. If you don't know what to do, you are. I mean,
you die.
You're fucked. I mean, like, even if you had the 10 best players in the game, if you don't know the strategy for Kadim, you are actually screwed. Like, you have no hope of beating it, right? But as soon as you know the mechanics for Conjured Amalgamate and Kadim, and you have a good strategy for it, it will die eventually, right? It will die. It's as simple as that. And even though it might take a while, as long as you have the strategy, it will eventually die. Like, Boss 2 is a bit different. I mean, you know what? This is so interesting to me, actually. My team for Wing 6, we actually effectively one-shot Boss 2. We killed it first try. And the thing is, it's actually one of the trickier bosses to do in pugs. Seriously, this is remarkable to me. Because it's the only one that maybe arguably the only boss in the entire game that has a bit of a cheeky DPS check on it. Mechanically, it's very easy. But in terms of DPS, you can actually fail. You can fail the DPS check, it's really interesting to see how these things develop. Conjured Amalgamate and Kadim are very easy for the Guild Wars 2 community because they are purely mechanics focused, right? It is just like, if you know what to do and you have your plan, you can win. Okay, you will win eventually. It might take you a few tries, but you'll win.
I don't know, man. DPS monkeying is pretty easy.
It is, but it's not that easy apparently, because you regularly, I see, even in my own groups, you actually struggle with Lagos DPS check. It horrifies me, but it's real.
I think part of it is that people don't realize that it's a DPS check until their platform drops into the water and they all die.
Yeah.
And then suddenly it's like, holy crap, people if you're not paying enough attention, you're just focusing on the fight and the pretty surroundings and that. You go, oh, what's this 3-minute timer or whatever in the corner? And then suddenly you're in the water and you all start dying. And
I think that's just because people go downstate that they're not doing damage. It's more like that they don't know how to survive more so than they don't know how to do damage.
And that is something that is maybe a bit tricky to talk. Maybe
Which
needs
is
to be
mechanics, right?
And maybe needs to be explained. One of the biggest mistakes that I see in new raiders or less experienced raiders is that they don't understand how to actually connect their damage, right? And this is why one of the reasons why I think Thief is not good for new players, because if you want to play Thief in raids, you need to understand how to actually connect and actually get that DPS off, right? Whereas if you play Soul Beast, you don't. You don't really need to know how to connect the damage nearly as well. It's a big mistake is that players don't understand how to actually constantly be attacking almost. I don't have like the fattest rotation on Necro, right? When I play Necro, I don't have like the crispest rotation out of anyone, but I'll almost always end up as top DPS because I'm just a lot better at attacking the boss constantly and getting DPS uptime than most players in the game, right? Even on classes that should do better, like I'll beat Renegades, right? I'll beat Deadeyes, right? Very easily. In theory, they should do more damage than me on bosses, but they don't, because they don't understand how to maintain damage. And these are a lot of the things, like when it comes to like knowledge in the game and understanding how to actually play is very isolated from how to actually do a rotation, right? It's a big problem, and it should be addressed by the raid community. And honestly, you wait, I'll get right on that, okay? But yeah, I agree that there is a responsibility from the community to handle these resources, because ArenaNet kind of can't, in a way, because of how fluid the game is. If they were actually going to do that, it would be very, very difficult to find that. But even if all of this stuff happened, it would be kind of difficult, because in a way there are some players who don't want to venture outside of the game client, right? They don't want to look up guides, right, and stuff like that. Whereas and I'm not sure how to get around that, really. I think it's difficult to get around that barrier, because at the end of the day, raiding almost implies that sort of effort will be required, right? Thinking about strategy.
I think so, yeah.
Stuff like that. And looking stuff up. It's true that, yeah, you can absolutely beat raids just with, if you can go through it and progress naturally, but it will certainly take a long time because progression is kind of tricky. But if you actually go and prepare, and this might be controversial, boys, okay? This might be very controversial. If you go in prepared and you took a tailored composition, or in my opinion, you just stacked a lot of holosmiths. If you just take a huge amount of holosmiths, a heal necro, a druid, 2 chronos, and a dream, and you can actually face roll every single raid in the game. Seriously, I reckon. Right, I'm actually going to throw this down. Okay,
let's see next stream, man.
Let's see. If any of you guys can find me players to do this and actually do it in good faith, I will prove that this is true. I do intend to make a Reddit post about this at some point once I'm done with the raid taunt. But seriously, I think I could take in, if I play on heal necro, okay? If I play heal necro and 9 completely new players and they vaguely know their rotation and they come on comms with me, we can kill basically every boss in the game.
Every boss in the game.
I reckon we could do that in one evening. Almost every boss in the game. I guarantee it. If I'm on heal necro and everyone plays the exact composition, learns their rotation-ish, you can beat almost every boss in the game.
As a casual, and you're saying that, it sounds great, and it's like, yeah, but at the same time, I have seen the top end stuff.
It will be a special level of hell, and I want no part in it.
Yeah, it's. I agree, though. I think there are players out there that are better than what they know, and then they just keep getting in groups that don't trust them, that they're going to wrap their head around it fast enough. And I think you could take 8 people who know nothing about it and then teach them, and teach them to the point where it's no longer a training run. It's like, okay, let's beat the boss. We've done this. We got them down to the 14%. This time, let's execute. And if you have questions, ask every time we die. And but what I also don't see is what I haven't seen in other games. And that's where someone takes in 10 thieves and they all go bash the same pinata, right? That's whether it's the golem or something else, and check people's DPS. And when someone's DPS is so far away, you start going, are you having trouble with your rotation? And you start teaching them new rotation, and then it's just that class. That is the class. And then you can actually go and try to beat a boss with it and see how far to get. And if you're experienced at raids, you know how effective classes can be, especially without healing. It's so weird that I know this shit, but it's only because I hate raids so much that I study it, because you got to know the enemy, right? But at the same time, I see it in other things as it appears. People understand the idea of builds. I just don't think they fully can wrap their head around, like, this is why you press 2 after 3. I think that's where you start to get the casuals into the casual elites, where they start to bleed into, because this procs or that procs, and they haven't seen it before. And that's what's missing from the raid community. Not so much the build or the rotation. They can fumble around with the keys and roll their face on it, but it's why the rotation works that way.
Yeah,
and when it breaks,
this
get
is
it
huge.
in there.
This is an amazing point, actually. This is yes. Seriously, man, like, this is such an amazing point and such a key piece of information. Knowing why something works is so important, and this is, again, a huge issue I see in the raid community. I think so many players don't understand why they're doing what they're doing, right? Especially when it comes to rotations and what their class can do, what utility their class has. I think people view the game very one-dimensionally. It's seen as basically just like, okay, me thief, me do 40k DPS. Why would I play Hollowsmith? Shit class, 33k DPS. Like, what's going on over there? But it's so much more than that. And it honestly, it makes me want to pull my hair out when I see this beautiful game with so much depth in it being treated as like a DPS monkey race. It's just ridiculous.
That's nothing new, man. I mean, that, you know, since the game's come out, and there are people who do high level, you know, fractal pugs and that, and they don't know how blast finishes work and all that kind of thing. So it's certainly not a problem just in raids, but I think it's at a particular level, it's endemic across the game.
I agree with that.
Yeah, no, just to clarify, guys, I have nothing against thieves, okay? I realize that I always bash thief. It's because, like, the typical player I see on Thief, I'm like, oh my god, like, what are you doing, man? When I see a Deadeye doing, like, 6k DPS, that makes me mad, okay? It makes me angry and it makes me sad. Because if you took that same player and you put them on an easier build to play, they would do better and be more useful to the team. Whereas most thieves are bloody apes. Seriously, it's ridiculous. It's not okay. All right, it's not okay. All right. But
that's why I hate when people are like, "Oh, it's a good starter class," and they're like, "Oh, thief! No, thief!
Absolutely not.
Thief is a great class, guys.
I disagree. Thief is an amazing starter class because in solo content you can do everything.
You can, but you've also got to deal with resource management as well, which can be a bit daunting to when you first dive in, if you're learning everything else.
It's also the best map completion class.
That's real.
Well, that's
which is the most casual of content, by the way.
Best farmer.
Thief confirmed the best starter class.
The best starter.
No, I think Thief is 100% a great class, guys. Just to fully clarify that, in all game modes, it's great. In fact, it's great in all game modes. But I think it's a bit of a trap for new raiders, right? Let's not get into this, right? I could talk for a long time about what classes people choose to play in raids, but that is not a good discussion.
You have the same issue with every class, though. Like, whatever is going to be the highest DPS, you're going to have people trying to
just pick it up and just go.
And I would say the same. I would say the same thing about Weaver as well. I would say that Weaver is also a trap, right? It baits people. Although I would say to a lesser extent, I think Weaver is less in raids. I'm talking about in raids. I would say that it's less one-dimensional. That's been lessened now because you don't play staff anymore. You play sword, which is much more just like me hit boss, me smash, SM orc, right? Like it's but it's less so still because you still have a bit more. I think you have a few more tools to kind of survive and have a bit more utility in the raid, right? As opposed to Thief, which is just kind of it's like smash. But still, it's a very very fine class, guys. Don't take this and say Thief is trash. Okay, Thief is very fine. But anyway, let's steer this back on topic, guys.
Back to what were we talking about before?
What were we talking about? Like this has got
achievement
crazy.
Points or summit?
Achievement raids? Achievement points?
Hard content? Huh? What?
Oh.
Toxicity. Every time we have a discussion about something, it just makes me feel like ANET is right more and more. Like we're basically saying achievement points are fine how they are designed because they don't really mean that much. So it's like, well, ANET's designed, clap, good talk.
I feel the same way. I feel like we're getting by ANET. They're like, yes, I want them to argue about this non-argument because, like, achievement points just wait. So many few people are going to complain about achievement points, and like I wouldn't have cared about that raceway if there wasn't any achievement points. But like
they kind of handled it like they should have done something different, but like doing nothing was probably worse than doing what they did. So I guess they weren't wrong. They just weren't right.
I feel like I feel like a sense that the raceway wasn't polished the way they wanted it. It almost felt like when they did the 30-second time, I'm like, that's a lot of extra time. But as I thought about it and did my EU account and things like that, it almost felt like they knew people were struggling in a different way than we could see. But at the same time, they're like, there's no way to polish this now to get it to a point where, you can be competitive.
The only thing the only thing that if they were gonna include the extra time, the only thing that I might have done if I was in ArenaNet possibly differently was force you to use the Beetle, because this is how I think people are cheesing it, that you just jump on the Raptor or the Jackal. So so rather than calling it the Beetle race where everyone uses the Jackal, lock the Beetle race into using the Beetle, then give everyone the extra 30 seconds. So you've got a new mount that people have only had for 3 months compared to a year. So that way you've actually got the challenge there. You've got to learn how to use the Beetle, if you don't know already.
Festival, to be honest.
In my opinion, it should just be a separate thing. If Mad King's Raceway, for the meta event. Well, yeah, if on this specific example, and I think this could be I think this is a relevant point here because this could be extended across the game, in my opinion. So, Mad King's Raceway, to do the meta event, not a problem. You can. This is my dream scenario. We rename Mad Drifter to like Mad Racer, right? For example, okay, and that's the Raptor one. Okay, then you have a separate achievement for beating it, basically, which forces you to require the Beetle, which will be
it's called Drifter, and you don't even need the Beetle. That's my immersion being destroyed.
Shattered,
Holy shit!
Like, how could you RP, dude? How could you RP now?
I'm actually mad now.
Yeah. Oh wait. What?
Change that shit back.
Yeah. I think tiering achievements could be really good, and this goes back to the central debate, right? Which is how the achievement point system should function. Do we need challenging achievements? I would say yes, and I think that when any content is added, there should be some stuff that actually requires mastery of that content, because I'm not gonna lie, that is kind of how I get enjoyed, right? I think a good example of this is the Mad Drifter. Before Mad Drifter, I had never used the Beetle, really. I would like go, I can boost, woo, fun, okay? But before that, I had never actually I didn't know how to drift. I had no idea how to control the damn thing, right? But because I saw, hang on, beat this in under a minute, looks like I might actually have to get good. So yeah, I actually went out of my way and practiced using the Beetle, and I beat it under a minute. And yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed it, and beating it was satisfying, right? And again, this is a personal thing, and I'm not saying that it has to be this way for everyone. I think that's where this gets a little bit lost in a way. I think when the more elitist or try-hard players make a statement like, I enjoy being pushed to actually improve my skills, it almost comes off as them saying, I think everyone should have to do this for every achievement. No, that's not the case at all. I'm just saying that my personal enjoyment from video games typically stems from being challenged in some way to take down this boss or race around a beetle track or beat this, execute this strategy, stuff like that. Like, to me, that is satisfying. Like, when that is how I find the satisfaction in the video games. Or, when I finally get a boss down, like trying to carry a group as hard as I can on my, dank support class, right, in raids, or teaching people how to do something. Like, that's where I find the satisfaction. And I find I have much more limited satisfaction, well, none really, in just beating a completely free achievement. Like, now, to be honest with you, if Mad Drifter had been as it is now, I wouldn't have really had a lot of fun. It would have been a giant meme to me. Like, oh, well, I guess I just one-shot that achievement. Well, that wasn't that exciting, was it? Whereas now it was a lot better, I think, the way it was.
Yeah, when I streamed doing the Mad Drifter, it was actually I was like trying all these like exploits with Shadow Trap and stuff like that, and it was kind of interesting, like just learning how to even like optimize your route. And then like people were like, oh, you can do it by just drifting. And so it was like, oh, how do I drift? And then I had to actually learn how to drift, and it took me like maybe like 40 minutes to beat it. And I look at Doror, and he's still way better at the beetle than me, and he gets it in like 20 seconds faster than me. Just learning the game through achievements, sort of, it like teaches you how to play the game. So like, if that didn't exist, I would still not know how to, use drifting somewhat.
I know this is kind of almost like a silly example, right? Where we're talking about like racing the beetle, but I think the overall skill of the player base can be improved through achievements, right? By like gently introducing people to like more challenging stuff can make you a better player. I think the Queen's Gauntlet, like going back to that again, is a great example of this. Like, you're going to have some understanding of like basic mechanical skill in order to beat some of those bosses, especially if you want to do it with gambits on, right? Like, that is how it goes. I think if you kind of ramp that up, you could even do that in open world, like players understanding boons. Like, if you really want to beat, say, Triple Trouble, you're going to need a basic understanding of boons, otherwise you're not going to do enough damage. And you'll see this if there's loads of great communities, by the way. I used to do Triple Trouble every day with various communities. Like, you see them advertise in Matcha, right? And you hop on TeamSpeak and go hang out with them. Really great stuff. And they'll say fire fields, like blast, like get might, like time warps, banners, and players will learn about these mechanics through stuff that is a bit more challenging, right? Like, it doesn't force you to, right? Like, force is a very charged word. It's a bad word for this, but it almost like gently gives you a shove, right? Like, the game is gently shoving you right towards it. And I don't think that's elitist. It's more like understanding the game mechanics, right? It's like boons and conditions are really important, and buffs are really important in general. Yeah. I think I've made my point, right, guys? Like, I think it's a good way of doing it.
Nudging is the better word, but I don't know. I think ArenaNet, they took too long to do it too. We're 6 years in. It's almost like we'll expect it to be this easier way. Even I do sometimes, or when they talk about something, I think even some of us hype it up a little bit more than what it is. It's what ArenaNet does, but then when they do want to give us something challenging, they haven't done enough nudging to get us in that direction. If they start now, I think it'll be okay, but Guild Wars 3 is like, what, 2022? So, like...
I don't know, man. Yeah. They were doing it early on. Like, the first year the Clock Tower dropped, the game had been out a month, and regardless of all the issues with the Char and the Norn model still shown on your screen, that was relatively speaking, especially for the time, it was a phenomenally hard piece of content to drop on a community that had been together for a month. So I think to some extent, like maybe a little bit of handhold, but every now and again, just dropping stuff. They did it again with the Chalice of Tears as well.
God, I hate that one.
Oh, dude.
Yeah. You know what though? That was because I think me and Salt were some of the first people to actually beat that. There were no guides out, and I took my entire guild to that jumping puzzle. We were like constantly portaling each other, cheesing, and that was honestly one of unironically one of the better experiences I've had in the game. Seriously, that was a lot of fun figuring out that JP. We had no guides. Someone would say, "Oh, guys, I found the next ledge. Right? I found it." And then you would go, "Oh, where is it? Where is it?" And we'd like portal each other and help each other out. And yeah, that was great. That was a really awesome piece of content for us as a guild to adventure. Yeah, I know it's a bit of a pain in the ass puzzle, but it was fun. I liked it. And on this topic about the not enough nudging, Zorric and Alex are talking about, yeah, I completely agree. My entire shtick, and Vallun's as well in his Reddit post, is that this nudging is not present in the game, and it should be present in the game because it causes a lot of problems. I think not having the nudging actually results in a lot of the problems we see in every game mode. In PvP, people not understanding even very basic combat mechanics, like why the PvP community is why people like Angels like need a new desk every week, right? Is because of people not understanding basic mechanics. People finding raids really hard is because they don't understand basic mechanics. And if the game nudged you a bit with open world stuff, with some achievements and festivals even, to actually understand the game, then I think it would actually help every single game mode. Because right now, there is no reason to be good at Guild Wars 2, really. There's no in-game reason to be good. There's nothing you can't get without being absolute hell trash at the game, okay? And
no,
that
right.
is in my personal opinion.
Can you say that about any game, really? Like, what game do you need to be good at?
Oh well,
Cuphead.
I mean,
Dark Souls.
I guess
just
stuff
say
like
one.
that, right?
Seriously. Which one?
Do you mean like literally any game?
Yeah, just say a game that it takes more skill than Guild Wars 2 to play.
I don't know, Mythic WoW.
Okay, well, why do you need to be good to do Mythic WoW?
Because if you fail the mechanics, you die. And if you
need to survive, just die.
What?
Why do you need to be good?
Because otherwise you'll fail.
Right, though.
Experience the content, right?
Teapot, you ran into that thing that toxic elitists do, and elitists do. They keep trying to get this bar raised that ArenaNet can't do. It's impossible. No. We've reached it, and you guys, you truly believe ArenaNet can create these great things, but the greatest thing that they've created next is moving the player. Wow, I'm so impressed. Why do I have to learn more mechanics that are only going to be in 0.01% of the game when it's more important for me to go farm nodes, and that's more fun.
Because if you don't have mechanics, the alternative is a level in gear treadmill, and that's what you see in other MMOs. And so you either force the skill ceiling or you force the gear ceiling, and this is something that the game's been dead against since the start, keeping us at level 80 for 6 years. So in my mind, you can either have one or the other. You can introduce different mechanics to different bosses. I'm sure Warcraft and Elder Scrolls Online and all these do it as well, but ArenaNet is pushing the focus in raids towards more complex mechanics, and I think that's where the difference lies.
But then there are more I agree with you like 90% there, but the problem is that the mechanics they add are more convoluted than they have been, or they're very spammy. They're almost like this RNG shotgun blast at your face in hopes that you're going to get through the content. I'm starting to see more in the living story as they try to ramp up the challenge, but all the living story becomes is just a bunch of circles on the ground. And then you're
sort of spinning. Just like in World of Warcraft, where you need a healer to get through something because you can't outplay everyone.
I don't know.
What? No, I don't. Are they? Is it really that spammy? I mean, I guess, right?
It really doesn't take that much skill.
But
you just have the right.
I think I'm slightly missing the point here. What would be wrong with adding in stuff to the game that would assist players in reaching a certain level for, say, raids or fractal challenge modes? Wouldn't it make sense to have players have a basic understanding of mechanics in the game? Wouldn't that make sense?
Yes, but the way ArenaNet has implemented mechanics throwing it in your face in hopes that you pick up some pattern that they know, that if you've spent a long time already seeing that pattern, they're going to know, but the casuals don't know it. So when they run into that content, especially at the end of episode 3, right, where you have to spam all this stuff constantly, you have to understand this is next, or you're just going to be down over and over and over. And people are always like, nobody wants to be downed. People just want to finish the content. It shouldn't take an extra 15 minutes to beat a boss than if they just put in a simpler mechanic or have a challenge mode inside of it to do those mechanics for people to understand it. When I face that stuff, what it comes down to is I know it's going to take a longer time. I'm not going to become a better player. It's just going to be, oh, yep, all these spams coming up. It's time to dodge. It's time to dodge. Time to dodge. Okay, now start doing DPS again. And while that is great, it doesn't do any more than what they already had in the game. So I always find these casuals finding it hard when it's not hard. It's just that ArenaNet's trying to teach you something without actually teaching you. They're just like throwing the kid in the pool and say, learn how to swim. But
you've got to make the fight interesting rather than just having a health bar that goes down. But as kind of annoying as it was, like the Mordramoth fight at the end in Hearts and Minds, it was a little bit trolly with the gliding mechanic, but at least it was a mechanic in there rather than just smacking him with auto attack. But
that was a better mechanic because you can learn it like in a very reasonable amount of time versus now it is literally the pattern is very random and it's just scattered all over your screen. Like I don't have a good example. Oh, you know what? They did it in what was it? Before they nerfed it, which I don't think they should have nerfed it. I think they should have calmed it down. But what was that? Where in Lake Dork, when you finally go face
Cordicus.
Yeah, and that in match was so spammy that when I dodged out of the mechanic, right, I'm doing my job to get out of it, I actually got hit by other mechanics because there was just so much going on. There's just no way for a casual player such as myself to process all of that. And that's why there's the skill level. And if ArenaNet goes too far away from that, the bar is too high for people to reach, and then more people will fall away from it. And I think that's another thing that's affecting Raid.
There is so much hand-holding in mechanics. For example, in Wing 6, the boss, Kadim, he actually greets you and shows you one of his mechanics before you go and see him. Like, he literally shows you his shockwave mechanic, and you get, like, knocked down by that. And it's just, like, the way that they teach you the mechanics is just so immersive. Like, I'm not sure, do you want, like, them to give you just
no,
a guide?
You're right. That's a good mechanic, but it's the other things they add in the battle that start taking away from that mechanic. I can't explain it in a way, I think, that, like, as a more casual player, like, how spammy it feels. Like, you do this thing and you learn this, you're like, oh man, okay, so this is the new mechanic, and then they teach you something else, you're like, oh, this is really good, and then suddenly it's all happening out. But it's not just like those two mechanics. They're throwing in enemies, and then they're throwing in this. It's like suddenly the difficulty spike. They're just like, let's just jack that button up just so we can make this battle seem intense instead of actually maybe introducing a third mechanic and then using different combinations of that pattern to give the casuals a chance. But I don't know.
They do have a chance, though.
I would kind of say that is how it is. That kind of is how it is already, but I actually think I do understand what you're saying here. It's in a way, are you saying that a lot of casual players don't exactly want to discover stuff, like actually have to invest time to discover how things work? Or is that kind of what's going on here? It's more like you'd like to know beforehand what all the mechanics are, right?
Like basically,
are you familiar with dungeon training? Are you familiar with like the dungeon journal in World of Warcraft? Right? Is
it as a casual, you want it to set in before suddenly it becomes so much more overwhelming. I think it may be a pacing issue. Is ArenaNet's biggest problem is that they introduce it and then they throw it at you, but they're like, oh, don't forget we have all of this happening as well. I don't know. I feel like new mechanics are good sometimes, but then they're utilized in just a very poor way that makes casuals cower from harder content. I feel, as a casual myself, I feel this frustration. Gosh, why is all of this here in this battle? Why can't it slowly ramp up in the battle? He just went full throttle. I mean, Joko went full throttle from the very beginning. If you don't know to spam your special action key and things like that, it just gets overwhelming people, and they call it hard. But it's not hard, it's just overwhelming at that time. But if they go back and do it again, it's not as hard. And we can fall back on this on the clock tower. The clock tower seems hard until you beat it, and then you start realizing the pattern to the end.
But I think no. Again, I don't want to come off as overly elitist, but isn't beating like a bit of an intense fight? Isn't that satisfying? And especially bear in mind, okay, in all of the examples that you've given, there's actually no fail state. In Living Story, there's no longer a fail state. If you die, the NPCs just res you.
Yeah.
Right? So you can't lose versus Joko.
That is not a good mechanic in the game.
No?
It's made casuals more toxic casual, because without dying and being reset somewhere to regather your stuff, people are going to be like, oh, they don't want to learn. But the problem is, when you're downed in downstate and 60% of the battle, you're not learning to dodge those mechanics. In fact, it's detrimental to your learning, because you're just trying to survive on the ground, because that's what ArenaNet has already taught you. So when the mechanic comes and you're just sitting there on the ground over and over and over again, you're not learning. So ArenaNet like punches itself in the gut by not just killing you, having you rezzed up somewhere and then go again. Because that, I feel, has always been a mechanic in video games. But now they're like, well, let's hold your hand, and this is not the time to hold the hand. Now, kill them. They're bad at the game. Make them learn, but give them a place to reset so they can sort of absorb the information as it comes. And they just, I see Rocket.
Isn't in Wing 2, like before, what is it, Trio? They have like a bunch of like journals like in the like camps, and they like tell you what all the weaknesses of the boss are. Like the one guy who you got to throw bees on, he like says in his journal he's like got
an allergy
like,
to
afraid of bees,
Yeah.
or some shit. Like, I mean, that's pretty good, but I don't think they can do something like that everywhere, and I don't even think that would help in a lot of cases. Yeah. It's like, do you just want them to literally tell you beforehand what's happening, or like kind of on some bosses they say like across the screen, like a raid squad message, they'll say hit the boss here or whatever,
hit the boss, dodge this. I mean,
I don't even think
but that kind of
I don't know
how else do you want to learn it other than just seeing it happen in front of you?
Because
it's not like,
if you put something in like that, it kind of undermines raid progression. Now, whether or not like we want the classic style raid progression in Guild Wars 2 or not is neither here nor there for me. But
I'm not even talking raids. It's happening more in the like overworld type PvE type stuff in the Living Story, that now I'm getting more people telling me that it's getting too hard to beat. And I just, that hurts me, but I'm also understand when I play and I get frustrated, it's not that it's too hard to beat. They're using the wrong words. They're trying to say that it's harder content. The Raceway, challenging, hard content. I will agree with that 100%. A Living Story in Boss Joko, I don't think he's hard. I think his mechanics come at you a little too fast. But they've gotten used to this idea the game teaches you a certain way. Yeah, and that's just it. Like, I don't know. I can't really put it in words, but I felt the frustration, and when I go read it on the forums or Reddit or wherever, like, I can sympathize with them, but at the same time, I realize that they're not being taught in the right way. Everybody learns differently. In this case, when you have a bunch of casuals who are walking into it, they're just not learning. And then then you have to take a second and be like, actually, this is the mechanic.
Good, though. Frustration is
me
good
being frustrated
when
is good. But
especially
when
you're
just
going
to give up is what I'm worried about.
Well, if they're fighting Joko, that's like a huge boss, isn't it? So, I mean, if it's not frustrating, it's actually kind of like not,
weirdly, I was
expecting it's not correct for the story.
Isn't it going to be epic though if there's a bit of a struggle, right? I mean, there's a bit of a. Isn't it going to be more satisfying for the player if it's a bit of a barrier to overcome. And you know what? I can certainly agree that. I mean, I don't know. I don't really think that the Joko fight was overly mechanically intensive. I mean, it will not really progress until you've beaten the other one, right? Like until you realize. Honestly, the only thing that I thought was really weird was the special action hotkey. Okay,
the one where you find the gap,
the invisible one. That's weird to me. I don't know why they put that in. And I can 100% agree with that. I think ArenaNet does. They do have a bit of a thingy, a bit of a thing for the special action hotkey. For like RP, I suppose.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I suppose so. But
it's just kind of a weird implementation.
It was a slightly odd implementation. I can definitely agree with that. But I don't think it was a badly executed fight. I thought it was actually a really fun fight. But maybe that's just I don't know. I thought it was kind of cool, right? I thought it was pretty cool.
I actually liked the Joko fight. I wasn't really frustrated until my CCs were out as a necro, so you're sort of waiting for things to recharge. And then spamming the key was a little annoying. I actually had problems with the hallway, avoiding the hallway stuff and having the patience and that kind of stuff for that. That actually, I ended up using Revive Orb or 3 just to just be done with it because I was just so frustrated. But it kills you there. That's what frustrated me. It just outright kills you. And then you get to the end battle. If you go down, you don't die. Come on.
Revive Orbs.
Revive, dude, I'm about that shit. I'm about those Revive Orbs, man. I like that. I love that shit, dude. Let's go. I've got like 200 of them, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I've got a ton of them.
I suppose... Wait, in a way... Wait, hang on. I'm confused here. As Party Hat GLaDOS is saying, I think I'm confused here. I think I actually agree with the casuals, in a way. Yes. No, and in fact, I think they agree with me as well. So I think there's room for compromise here. What I think's going on here is that we need more middle ground, right? Okay, maybe it's kind of like middle ground, or I think we agree that there's just not enough ramp, right? There's no way, and you know what, guys? Bick the Snake said this as well, guys. The only person ever to beat Vallun in debate, guys. Okay, the only person. Right? That maybe we do just need some way in the game that incentivizes people to understand stuff about the very, very core game mechanics. Stuff like boons. I agreed with him when we had this discussion as well. But stuff like boons, dodging stuff, the special action hotkey, break bars, stuff like that. Maybe that is actually just a big deal, and I guess that is I don't know. I think in terms of just to say like read the. This is something that I don't quite understand, right? And maybe I'm not trying to be obtuse here or be a dick, but why don't people just read what their abilities do? Right? I don't get it. Right. If you go ahead and like read what Might does, you're gonna realize, aha, Might is pretty good. And then if you read what Quickness does, you're going to go, ooh, that's even better. And then if you say you're on your Ranger, right, and you mouse over Frost Spirit, okay, you're going to go, holy shit, 5% DPS increase to my entire team? Oh my god!
Let's take that.
That's insane! It's just... But I don't know, like, it doesn't that kind of make... It doesn't. And if you look at your traits on your Druid, you go, wait a minute, I can give 25 Might to 10 people? What the fuck? Why isn't this nerf? Right?
It's an RPG. It's not an MMO, like, I don't know, what are, like, phone games. It's an MMORPG.
Yeah, I don't know. It just seems that the knowledge kind of is packaged in the game. You just have to read it. I mean, if you I mean, just look at all the... Maybe there needs to be, like, a panel where you can... Maybe you can like see all the boons like laid out or something, and like because you have your skills laid out. If you go in your hero panel, you can see all the weapon skills you can potentially use. You can mouse over them and see them what they do. You can see all your utility skills, and you can obviously see all your traits. You can just like you can click over them.
What's kind of weird is like back when the game first launched, or like when we had some iterations of the old UI, and certainly before we had break bars, like understanding that kind of stuff was was ridiculously kind of difficult, especially when you're trying to do it in large open world groups, like trying to explain to Azurga people what 64 stacks of Defiance did, and then when you had the old version of the trait window, where you had to flip through each and every one individually. It was a question of accessibility to that information. That now, even with the traits that you don't have selected, you can read every single one that you can have, and flipping them to a new trait line is dead easy, and it's more visually interactive with you. So the UI has gone to great lengths to make that easier, but I think I see this on Reddit a lot as well, that people are crying out for something like a break bar NPC, just like it took however many years to get the dodge one in. That there needs to be a little area somewhere, probably in the main town in the starter map, so somewhere like Claypool or whatever the others are called in the other maps. Just have a couple of NPCs there that go through the basic mechanics. So you've played the game for a little bit. You've got a little bit familiar with your class. You get to a point where you're level 6 or 7 or whatever, and then you get these NPCs that introduce bits and pieces to you. There's even a heart in Queensdale. Again, I think it is in Claypool, where you have to use like a sword, a shield, and a rifle in time to understand what the charge mechanic is for the rifle, where when you kneel down and it charges up the shot, and it's got that cast time on it.
Like there's how to
yeah, exactly. So even indirectly, you've got these little events that are teaching you some aspects of the mechanics in the game.
And when the break bar is up, it takes 0 damage, and then when it's breakable, it takes no damage. So it'll teach people like the priority system.
CC absolutely.
Yeah, they tried to do that with with those chacks, right? There's little chacks in Tango Depths, the chack braces. Are they called chack braces? The ones that will hold
them, make them invulnerable,
and then you have to
protect the other ones.
Yeah, and you have to break them to do it. So there is stuff like this in the game. But I think you were kind of chuckling a little bit there, Zorric, with regards to what I was saying. Like, is there some kind of thing that prevents people from kind of using the game itself to learn about the mechanics and figuring out for themselves? Like, do they need some kind of push to read the descriptions of, say, the boons and stuff like that? What's exactly going on there?
I think if ArenaNet had a better tutorial day one, this wouldn't even be a conversation now. I feel 90% of the time it's because someone doesn't know something, that they don't like something. So, and it's not even the thing they're trying to do. It's that thing that's just sitting out there, not enough might, whatever it is. And then once they learn it, they're like, oh, this is easy. Well, yeah, the game is built that way, that once you have this, and this, it's easy. That it's a casual game, and ArenaNet's trying to stay to that, even when it gives challenging content. That's why people speedrun raid bosses under sub 3 minutes. And like, who would have thought that was going to happen when they came out with raids? So when the stuff, if ArenaNet would put the resources in to teach newer players that we con into the game and tell them that's a casual game, but if there was a system that would teach them and be, instead of going in and having some story about, oh, this is the ghost in the char zone, but instead going, hey, this is a weapon, this is why you're using it. So they have this new player experience, but they also go, look, this weapon gives you might. Might does this. And this weapon gives you Aegis. Aegis does this. If they did that too, we wouldn't even be here, because a lot of people would know this mechanic. And then when HOT came out and the break bars came out, if they just taken a second in the first story to go, hey, we need to break this whatever, and teaching people this is the break bar, this is what it does, and when it's broken, you can kill this beast. Like, there isn't even going to be a conversation about it, because something we can go, hey, you need to go back and play that part again, because it teaches you in the game. Right now, the new player experience teaches you a lot of stuff, but it doesn't teach you the right stuff anymore. It's aged, it's getting old. And then the new expansions, when they add new things like barrier and things, they need to teach you what that is, at least in a way that like you have an understanding. And so if you run into it in the future, go, I bet it's that thing they were trying to teach me at the beginning of the expansion. So.
I think that's very difficult to actually execute in the game, like with how complicated the Guild Wars is, like to kind of fit all of that in, and like you'd have to do that in every starting area, right, or through every story, and that is kind of tricky, right? That's really tricky.
No, you could do it in LA if you wanted to. You have that zone by the world versus
the funnel where you get funneled into,
Eventually, you have to go to LA. So once you go in there, there should be some kind of general commander going, "Hey, come learn more than what the new player experienced, or come back to it later, attach an achievement or something," because that's pretty much what they're there for. And then you go and you're like, "What is this achievement?" And you learn. And players I think do a good job sometimes of teaching, but you can't. Sometimes people have to see it themselves and actually utilize it before they go, "Oh man, okay, now." And it just doesn't happen. But at the same time, now it's like, is ArenaNet ever going to have enough time, resources, or anything to give us that? And if there's another expansion or whatever, and they're going to introduce new mechanics, conditions, whatever, because we forget about those too. They've added boons, they've added conditions. So there's more things to know. And as a veteran, we forget, like, yes, we learn, move on. And as newer players come in, they have to experience all this stuff at the same time. And it just hurts when you're just trying to play 2 hours a night or something like that, or 4 hours a week. You may not wrap your head around it, or you saw it and then it's gone. I don't know.
Yeah.
ArenaNet just has to do a meaningful way to do it. Hopefully it doesn't have to be recent.
Yeah. Yeah, I think some kind of in-game tutorial that would detail like every boon in the game, or just basic mechanics like this, like stuff like break bars, and combo finishes. But I think it would have to be like forced, right? Again, it's ArenaNet's approach to this, which is such a double-edged sword. Their approach is really good, right? Almost everything in the game is up to you. It's like your decisions. You can do how you want. You can play how you want. That is absolutely great. But the other problem with that is that people always take the path of least resistance. And Guild Wars 2 will never stop you from taking the path of least resistance, because it's a, hey, friendly. And that's fine. But it does cause these problems where as soon as players encounter any level of difficulty, it seems to like come out of nowhere, right? It's like, wait, what's this? This is hard. And if you're not ready for that, that can be a bit of a shock. And that's what you see when there's challenging stuff in the game. The game never forces you to really learn anything about it. Brazil tells me stories about how there are players who have played since launch who don't even know what dodging is, right? And they don't know how to salvage items, right? And hey, shit's probably real. But that's because the game never actually forces you to experience this sort of stuff. And when I say, again, force, it's like,
that's a very good point. It doesn't teach you about salvaging, does it?
It doesn't funnel you. It doesn't funnel you into this. In a lot of other games, right, there are things you are going to encounter, right? You're going to encounter certain game mechanics. And in Guild Wars 2, you encounter them, but you don't actually have to do them. You can beat all the open world bosses by basically just auto-attacking. Like, you don't have to break the bars, you don't have to do any of that stuff. But that's kind of not the point in a way. You don't even have to know what a break bar is to win. You don't have to know what a boon is to win. And that's kind of that's kind of the core issue here. That's why it seems that when there's any kind of challenge, it seems like a huge difficulty spike to people, because in a way the game kind of assumes that you know something about it. And if you know nothing about it, you're going to have a bad time. And that is where this problem comes in. So we just need a tutorial, boys. When you go to Lion's Arch for the first time, you have to go through an instance that is like a quiz on a quiz on what you need to know
I really like
about
that
the
idea.
game.
In factions, the starter era required you to like use a bunch of different skills, like the kiting tutorial, and you had to use like caltrops to like kite this mob that would like do a lot of damage if you let it get to melee.
I didn't learn what snaring
was. That's a good like. Say what?
I didn't learn what snaring was until factions, because they make you slow somebody, and I didn't know what that was.
And that's also like a very good like integrated way as well, because like, oh, you're in the academy, you're learning, right? So it was a well, like, I enjoyed doing that tutorial more than once, even though like I knew what all this stuff was, just because the role play aspect. But it's not that hard to create a good tutorial. They just need
Yeah, I think one example could be, oh, wow, you could have to, and you could do this with a bundle system. You could do this with the bundle system, actually. Oh, man, wow. So, for example, you need to help your trade, you need to help some NPCs defeat another NPC, right? And the only way to do it will be to, like, get, like, a might flamethrower, and you have to, like, spray the NPCs to give them might so they can kill this big monster, right? Like, it could be like the Pact Academy or something, right? Or like, okay, you need to help these cadets run away from a fake undead hologram or something. You have to spray them with a swiftness spray to make sure they can run fast enough. There's even exists in the swamp fractal, right? That you can pick up those spray guns and spray people with it, right? Or stability, right?
And the boon system is even really good because it's so simplified.
Exactly, yeah. You could have to
get every buff.
You could have to, like, jump on a panel to, like, activate stability for the NPCs or yourself so you don't get, like, smushed by a boulder or something like that. I don't know. There's a lot of ways you could do this. I think there are some ones that might be a bit tricky, like Fury. You might have to, like, amplify the effects of Fury to, like, really get the point across. So you just say, like, yeah, in this instance, Fury gives you a 100% crit chance, right? Or something like that. But I think it's definitely doable, actually. Like, I think you could explain what all the boons do. Like, Aegis is obviously like it's the most obvious one, right? Like, Aegis is the easiest one. You can say, aha, you must apply Aegis here, otherwise this boss is going to whack you, and you're going to get crushed and die. So yeah, like, tutorials like that could definitely work, and you could have almost like a series of them you could inject them into the living story, right? Like, aha, Commander, we need you to come back, and it would be very RP. It would be like it would be a bit jarring even, but I'm very cheesy. I'm sure they could come up with better ways of doing it in the actual missions, right?
So to, like, force people to go back and do the tutorial.
Yeah, in a way, right? Because I think it's one thing to read a tooltip, but it's another thing entirely to see it in action, right? To see these things in action. Something like Might that just has 30 power, 30 condition damage, right? I know that's really good, right? But I can absolutely understand that might seem a bit intangible to a newer player, right? 30 power? What? Right? Something like Fury is more obvious, like 20% crit chance, right? Okay, yeah, fair enough. I get it. But even that, with no context on it, is still a bit funky, right? And a lot of these things can certainly appear very obscure, right? If you don't have the knowledge of of what impact that will actually have, right? And I think tutorials could certainly help with that, like, to kind of demonstrate the impact of these boons. I think one thing that would be really good is, like, showing, like, the difference between using an attack with 0 might stacks and 25 might stacks. It is a big deal, okay? There is a big difference between 0 might stacks and 25 might stacks, right? Like, even if you're in Berserker gear, like, 25 might is still really spicy, and most players won't be in Berserker gear, right? So it would certainly be an interesting example to have that demonstrated in the game with how much more damage you can do that way, or and also, like, all the other buffs as well. Like, every single other buff is like really huge, right? These are huge deals, core mechanics. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, there's definitely many ways that they can cleverly show it, where it's, like, vividly clear, like, what the thing does.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the whole issue here. That it comes back to this. We've gone full circle here. The issue is that not only as there maybe it lacks the ramp up in, say, like, the open world until you have to fight, like, a big boss on your own. It's one thing to fight, the Shatterer, right, with 50 other guys, but then you got to fight Joko on your own, right? And you might actually have to do some mechanics. Like, there is a step up there. There absolutely is, especially on Cordicus. Now, I know, like, some of the elitists in chat might bite my head off for this, but let's be honest, boys. Like, the Cordicus, like, mass spawning the Jade armors was, like, a bit of a CC spam fiesta. Like, it wasn't difficult, but it was certainly a bit annoying, right? And yeah, they were probably right to actually change that. The only one,
I think they over nerfed it. Well, in my opinion, I think they should have kept it hard because it is Kotick, and it's so weird because I'm usually them getting rid of crap, but I think it was just a combination of things, and if they just slowed one of it down, I don't think people would have had as much issue. But they just completely just took it out, and I was like, okay, whatever. That's ANET. That's how they nerf.
Yeah. And some people in chat were saying that you need to add, like, a collection to get the reward. No, I actually, right. I'm gonna have to put my foot down here. I actually think that players need to be funneled into this tutorial system, right? It is. Look, guys, the tutorials must not be optional, okay? Because otherwise people just won't do them. I think Guild Wars 2 does need to slightly stray away from its total freedom approach, because I think the total freedom approach has resulted in a player base that does not understand the game very well. And fortunately, it is possible to function in Guild Wars 2 without actually understanding the game very well. However, I think it is a detriment to the overall game, because it essentially soft locks players out of truly experiencing it, okay? And now I'm going to tell you guys a story. So I logged on to Guild Wars 2 when the Halloween patch came out. And I went into the labyrinth. And then I went around in circles killing some of the bosses. And I was like, holy fuck. If you play content like this, you basically don't experience like the glorious combat system and like the true joy of Guild Wars 2. But that is the content that people look forward to. And it kind of made me a bit sad, because I mean, this is of course very elitist, but I think, wow, this game has so much more to offer in terms of the gameplay than like standing on a mob and auto-attacking it to death. And the fact that most players don't experience the game to its fullest, or at least a little bit more than just auto-attacking, kind of made me sad, right? This game has an amazing combat system, this dynamic gameplay, and it isn't experienced by most of the player base. And I think a part of that is because they don't understand it particularly well. And I think that most people would probably get more out of the game and would be able to experience the content that they view as too difficult or too challenging if the game was understood a little bit better by the majority of the player base. I think suddenly if you understand basic mechanics, I think PvP is more appealing, world versus world is more appealing, raids are more appealing, all that stuff, it becomes available to you if you understand the game better. I think people are kind of soft-locked. They're soft-locked out of the game because of a lack of knowledge. And that needs to be fixed. It's a detriment. Go ahead.
Bick was right all along, and the Earth is...
The Earth is flat.
Whoa, the Earth is flat. Changed my mind.
But yeah, yes, I agree. Yeah, Earth's flat.
Holy shit, exposed. So, well, I mean, yeah, the tutorial, the new player experience is not good. I mean, this is something that Bick was right on, and me and him do see it. I think we should not the Earth is flat thing, but yeah. But on the tutorial aspect, I mean, yeah, it certainly is a concern, right? It certainly is a concern. There are issues with the new player experience as a whole, and I do think it causes a lot of problems throughout the entire game. You see the echoes of it, right? And the way the game is played by the majority of players is a symptom of the lack of education in a way.
That's kind of like a different issue than the one we're talking about, because the achievement system being like too casually geared isn't about people not knowing how the game. It's just they know how the game works. They just don't want to work to it. So like, are we saying that there needs to be a tutorial for every achievement? No, that would just be like bad design. Like there just needs to be like some, intrinsic value to you going out there and getting something yourself.
Well, I think the way the conversation has gone is that we've kind of discovered a bigger issue underlying here, right? Like even deeper than the achievements, right? The reason why hard achievements face pushback is because of a widespread lack of knowledge of game mechanics, right? And that's under that issue of there isn't enough challenging content in the game in all aspects of the more casual aspect of the game, and there can't be more challenging achievements in the game because players require a certain level of mechanics to be able to access that content. And the game does not give you a nudge as such to actually get on board with learning those mechanics. And that is why we have the pushback against the more challenging mechanics, challenging content and achievements, and having stuff kind of skill gated a little bit is because of this lack of efficient tutorial system within the game.
I mean, the original tutorial, like the one that's still in the game now, is pretty trash. With all respect, that it's not been updated in 6 years. So what you get shown is you get to kill a couple of things, you get to talk to a couple of people, and then all that happens is it's just it's just a DPS thing, and like it's not even a DPS check. You just use your skill 1 and 2 until the hands fall over or whatever. So there's literally nothing there. It shows you how to move and how to attack, and with the but yeah, someone says the game doesn't teach you blasting. Your tutorial needs to teach you blasting. It needs to teach you about boons. It needs to teach you dodging, break bars.
Finishers.
And isn't there like those bog skills that have really high health regeneration? If like you could have like a boon rip tutorial. You could
to remove the regen.
Scale by
yeah. Oh, the bog scales.
That's a good example.
Just near not Lake Divinity, the one on the other side near the quarry.
Well, it's all over Queensdale. Well, scales in general have this property, right? They always apply regen to themselves. Scales across the world typically do this. They always have regeneration on them.
It'll be the Omega scale, though. It'll have super regen.
Oh, the Omega scale.
And you've got to boon rip it to do damage. Yeah.
But no one will ever forget to boon rip a firebrand after they kill that scale.
Yeah, but that's true.
But here's the game. The game's 6 years old, though. The game's 6 years old. Do we realistically think something like this is going to come in?
I can see it.
Problem.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think it may be unlikely, but I can kind of see it. I mean, maybe not now, but well, to be honest, this is just it should have been a lot. In a way, it is a lot too late for a lot of these things. Like even when. I think that a great example of this is like the PvP system. Like when the PvP system at launch just should have been what it is now, really. Like, but it was a little too late, right, to kind of keep it going, right? Like, and the new player experience has like completely cocked everything up. If they fixed it now, it would be good, but it wouldn't really be value, right? Like it's too late, right? Like, it is a bit too late in a way. It would be awkward and maybe not even worth it to implement this now, and that is a sad thing indeed. It may be time just to kind of buckle up and wait for Guild Wars 3 in a way, because I think it may have to come down to the community to try and fix this stuff almost.
Maybe it has something to do with how they don't let account bound.
People will do it if there's AP attached.
That's true. Yeah. It's true though. It's true. A lot of people will go for it.
That's what I was saying earlier. Just put an achievement to it, and people will go and do it, and maybe they'll learn something. Maybe skim over it, but whatever. Or maybe they already know. Like maybe we're wrong. Maybe players are better than what they are, and they are. And I'm sitting here defending people that just want to sit in a chair and hit the one skill.
Yeah. Well, there are some people like that, and I want to address the comment by Ensleep here. That's wrong. The people challenging the people challenging achievements gets pushed back is because people don't want to be challenged. Some people just want to log in, dress up their doll, and talk to friends while doing something brain dead. Well, here's the thing with that. Okay, what I'm saying is that the challenge would evaporate if everyone kind of knew what the hell was going on in the game. There are some people who don't want to be challenged, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine. But what I'm saying is the game effectively becomes easier if you know what's going on, and you can. Well, that's very obvious the case in say raids, right? Like raids are really hard on day one, but now they're completely free farm, right? That's just how it goes, and it's true with game mechanics as well. Like you're always going to be confused if you don't know what like the special action hotkey is, or you don't know what might does, or swiftness, or vigor, or anything, right? Or dodging. You're always going to have a bad time. If you understand these mechanics, then a lot of the challenge in the game kind of evaporates. And I'm not saying it's because it's easy. It's just that I don't know. Like you not every problem is a nail, right? You can't just use a hammer on everything. Sometimes you need to actually know what the hell is going on and use the appropriate tools for the situation. And if you try and approach a problem in the wrong way, any problem, I'm teaching you guys about life now, okay? About life. If you try and approach a problem the wrong way, it's always going to be tough, right? You need to approach things correctly and with the knowledge to get that to get that Lamborghini in your garage,
Oh. Did we lose Zorric?
Zorric's dead.
Rip Zorric.
The elitist Rocker got him, dude.
Rocker got him.
Yeah, Rocker got his ass.
Stream sniped. Dang.
Yeah. Actually stream sniped. Literally, though. That was a sniper rifle.
Literally stream sniped.
But I think we've come full circle, so I think we can more or less wrap that up. I think that'll pretty much do it for tea time, guys. I think an intense one for sure.
So I mean, do we think there's a winner in the debate size? Do we think that the casuals need to be thrown off a cliff, or
it's time for the chat vote, guys? Let's see, guys. Chat. Who won the debate?
Was the worst.
Was it casuals? Did the casuals win? Or did the elitists win? Let's go. And hopefully we can get Zorric back for some good old shilling at the end of the stream. But I'm not sure what exactly. I think there may be some issues with the connection here.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think we've kind of come full circle. I think we've had a really good discussion here.
So,
a very productive discussion. It was very enjoyable for me, certainly. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Aha! Welcome back.
Oh, he's back.
Hold on. Discord wanted to close or something.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's not good.
Hey!
Welcome back.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Bic won apparently.
Yeah. I win. Nike undefeated in debate once again. Let's just call Brazil. Let's add Brazil to this call and really finish this off. Okay, that's what we need to get done. Sizer, thanks for the hosting. Appreciate that, man. But unfortunately, we will now kind of start to wrap up here. I think so. Yeah, I do want to thank you guys for watching, and of course to my remarkable guests here, guys. It has been one hell of a show, and thank you guys so much for coming on. I really appreciate that. Let's get to some shilling. Actually, no, before that, does anyone have any final thoughts? Any final thoughts on this discussion? I think we've had a good one, and I think we can conclude that kind of teaching people about the game is good. Okay, and if it could be done in the game,
people need to they need to accept that if they want something, they need to work for it, and if they want to show that there is some meaning to it, then they need to make it for themselves, whatever it is that meaning is. For me, achievements are a way to have fun and to create content for myself, whereas for other people it may be a sign of how much you played the game, right? And that's fine if you do that, but if you're going to do that, at least justify your argument with, hey, well, this guy has achievement points, but I've seen that he is a little bit of a potato, so he's got experience. But, it means something, right? But it's not what's the word? It's not black and white. It can be useful for some kind of meanings, but is not the end all.
Absolutely.
In a measure,
you've got to do what makes you happy, haven't you?
Except when it comes to me, because I'm clearly God of RP.
Well, obviously,
the best player in the game, better than Grimjack.
Better than Grimjack? Whoa! Holy
Jeez.
shit! I didn't even know that was possible, dude. Wow! Now that is impressive, right there. But yeah. So yeah.
Change my mind.
Ooh, change my mind.
Change my mind. Yeah, you gotta do what makes you happy. You can't. If you're a player playing 4 hours a week, you can't expect to judge you. You can't really judge yourself by Vallun or by Teapot's yardstick. The guys who live and breathe this game and play literally nothing else. You can't do that. If you do that and you're playing 6 hours a week, you're gonna have a bad time. You're gonna have a bad time all around. So just be you. Just do what makes you happy.
At the end of the day, it is. Seek enjoyment in Guild Wars 2 the way you see fit, guys. And I think the game does facilitate that. And I think, you know what? Let's all hold hands and sing, because I think that Guild Wars 2 can accommodate the casuals and the elitists. I think the content is there for both of us, and we can coexist and be happy and help each other. That's what I would say. Zorric, do you have any words? Finally?
Yeah. If you want people to play your content to convince ArenaNet to bring that content to the game, you got to teach. You got to get them on your level. You can't just get up on your throne and sit there. You got to turn around and be like, this is how I got there. This is how you can get there. And by doing that, you will get more people in your corner. And when that happens, ArenaNet will give you that content. So right now, the casuals are winning sense to a lot of people because ArenaNet nerfs things. But if you don't want that, try to teach them, try to get them out of their box, try to get them to grow in the game. And, the little time that they have, is useful to teach them something. And that little bit will just keep improving the game, and we'll get that challenging content, and maybe even so there you go.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is going to actually be the wrap up. I baited you guys before, so let's get to explaining who the hell we are. So it's been a little while, but returning, our amazing guest, representing the Dirty Casuals, the angriest Salt Cube ever. It is AngryZorric. Tell us a little bit about yourself, my friend.
I stream a lot right now. I'm on hiatus, but I still gave Teapot my time. And but you can find me on Twitter, YouTube, here on Twitch. I'm a variety gamer. I'm doing a Final Fantasy Journey playthrough right now, but I'm a casual Guild Wars 2 player focused on making gold and sort of seeing what the community does and absorbing that information. But yeah, you can find me at those places if you need anything.
Okay, be sure to get on that, guys, for all of your needs in Guild Wars 2. Okay, all right.
All of them. Moving
across to the other side of the table, guys. It is the debate god, Vallun, better than Grimjack, the best ERPer in the entire game by far. 38k AP, 6 years of Thief experience, guys. 6 years. Thief experience. The only time he's ever lost a 1v1 was Citadel in Mystic Builds, and it was versus a Dragon Hunter with staff. Vallun, representing the elitists. Let us know who you are and where we can find you.
I don't think I can say anything to that, but if you want to catch me on Twitch, I'll just go to twitch.tv/Vallun. I have a YouTube channel. If you want some ASMR content, I'm also the best at that, by the way. So just go to YouTube, just search Vallun, and I'll probably be streaming later tonight as well.
Wow.
So if you want to see some meme builds, that's what we're.
Yeah. So be sure to watch out for Vallun. Okay. Be sure to watch out for that. And then our final guest. Okay. Also a disgusting casual. He's changed his name back from literally playable. It is RPG Alex, the best soul beast in the game. The only debate he ever lost was versus Brobo with regards to quick draw choices in Celestial Avatar. Now that's an old meme there, boys. Okay, that's a very old meme.
Wow.
Okay.
Oh, takes me back. Takes me back.
What are you up to these days?
Well, when I'm not... Well, tonight chat have called me Budget Teapot, Blonde Jesus. And if you come over to my chat, you can come make massive fun of my giant forehead. My receding hairline. But I'm playing Guild Wars 2 because it's a damn fine game. And if you've been around here tonight, I'd expect you to feel the same way. So come and check it out. We do some super cool stuff. And we play Guild Wars 2. Also got lots of other RPGs going on, as the name RPG Alex entails. So we're working through Bard's Tale 4 at the moment. There's The Witcher 3. There's Elder Scrolls Online. As long as it's got elves and wizards, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. So you can come out and come and chat to me. I didn't lose to Brobo. Probably did. I can't remember. I also, so I main Ranger in Guild Wars 2. So come along and tell me how badly I'm playing it. And every now and again, you can see me come and leech a raid carry from Teapot.
Wow.
As well.
Leech!
Yeah.
So there you go, guys. Those are all of our guests. And of course, I'm afraid we're going to have to move over to me. I guess I represent the elitists, I guess. But you know what? I always do my best to accommodate everyone. So I'd like to think that the casuals can like me as well, okay? The more casual players. I'm a man of the people, boys, okay? Man of the people. So, if you like raids, if you like Guild Wars 2, then you must follow and subscribe to the stream. Give me your money, guys, okay? And you know what? Give ArenaNet your money too, okay? And you know what? Why is that, guys? simple because the game is actually on 50% off right now, guys. Now that is insane. If you like value, okay, if you like value, then it is time to purchase some alt accounts, boys, using my referral link or the referral link of your favorite Guild Wars 2 content creator, which is it's obviously me, right? But anyway, ArenaNet chill, yeah, dude. Where's Ben? Ben, where are my bits? Come on.
Nick was right all
yeah,
along.
Ben, come on. That's 100 bits for this tea time at least. Come on, hit me. Go on, let's go.
I heard that. Now, guys, Teapot has that many alt accounts. His main, it's gold locked for days.
Yeah, it's true. It's
Gold
true.
locked
So
for
many
weeks.
Mystic coins. It's out of control. It really is out of control. But anyway, guys, I stream a lot of Guild Wars 2 every day. Come back and watch Tea Times every week. Loads of good content. We're doing raids. I try and help people in raids, like raid guides and stuff like that. Subscribe on YouTube for all the Tea Times and various dank memes. Okay, but yeah, follow me on Twitter as well because I like Twitter followers. Nearly 3K. Nearly, yeah. Oh yeah, that's a lot, guys. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Follow the stream, subscribe to the stream, follow all of my amazing guests. I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you guys later after this raid goes off. We're commencing the raid, so in 10 seconds we'll be out of here. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Follow, subscribe to everyone, buy some copies of Guild Wars 2, use a referral link, support the community, and of course, guys, you guys have a good day. Enjoy the rest of your lives. Thanks for watching, guys.